changing the way you watch TV.
Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Information is power.
All right. Peace, everybody. Peace. Welcome. Welcome to the Information Man Show. I'm very excited today to be interviewing Lenon Honor. A lot of folks know Lenon Honor for his Umar Johnson videos. Controversial. Some people see them as controversial. Some people see them as telling the truth.
Tell the truth.
But beyond just the videos around Umar Johnson, Brother Honors was doing a lot more on YouTube just besides that. He is a family man, dedicated father. This is a brother who has consulted and motivated on the issues around family, children, and manhood. Brother Honors has his critics. But today what we want to do is we want to break through all of the noise and let the brother himself speak to the issues of where he is in his life. I am going to ask him questions around the origins of him doing Umar Johnson videos, because you have critics out there to say, oh, he's stalking the man. But we're going to get into it deeply here as to why he has produced those videos. Prior to those videos, he was doing other types of videos around family, health. We're going to get into it. And right now, some of you may know this and some of you may not know this, is that this brother has completed a degree in cybersecurity. We're going to let him go a little bit deeper about that degree, because of course you're going to have some folks that are going to say, oh, this isn't true. I want to also say something that I told Brother Honors before we went live right now. See, I want everyone to hear what I'm about to say, and I want the brother to hear me as he's in the back. He's going to be on very soon with me. It's not really where you start. It's how you end. So all of us, we grow up and we may start going into school and getting degrees, master's degrees, PhDs. There's some people who never had a degree who run big time companies today. It's not necessary how you start. Some of us grow up, we're poor, we have no money, no nickel, no dime to rub together. Some of us grow up privileged, some of us don't. It's really how you end, not how you begin. Would you want to begin with the most ultimate opportunities? Yes. But in the end, as a man thinketh, so he is. And as a man moves through life, he gains more wisdom. Who you were at 20, 30, and 40 may not be what you are at 50, 60, and beyond. We find periods in our life where we say, I didn't do this at this age, but I'm going to do it now. It's where you end, not where you start. It's how you learn from your mistakes to grow as a man. And that's the bottom line. And Honors has said many times on his channel that he went back to school because he wanted to be of better service to his family.
Tell the truth.
And that's really what a man is supposed to do. And sometimes as a man, we grow at different levels in our life. Everyone's different. Everyone is an individual. No one is the same. So you can't judge a man by what he didn't do here, but you judge a man by his overall, at the end of the day, you judge a man at where he's going and what he's accomplishing right now. With that said, everybody, I want to bring Brother Honors on. As you see him right here, he is also a musician, plays the flute, very talented brother. I heard him say on a video, this video right here, and I'm going to play a little bit of that. But on this video right here, I heard this brother say that he definitely likes to write songs. He wants to write more songs. He has tons of songs that he has worked on in the past and currently. He also is a brother who likes sci-fi. He's working on a video around Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie myself. I love sci-fi. So there's many dimensions to Brother Honors other than just the Umar Johnson videos that people want to sort of hang around his neck as that's what only he is. And he has said on many occasions on his channel that he wants to transition from those Umar Johnson videos. But you're going to hear today why he has indeed gone in on Umar Johnson on those. There's a reason why he has made those videos. We're going to talk about that today and a lot more. So with that said, let's bring the brother in. Let me get on over here and let's bring this brother in right now. Brother Honors, thank you for being here. Brother, I hope I did the best I could with that intro. I've been wanting to get you on for an interview for quite some time. I think this was the best time to do it, given all that you have currently achieved. And take it from there, brother.
Well, thank you. First, thank you so much for having me. The introduction, I appreciate it. I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate you as a man. I've looked up to you for some time now.
Thank you.
Process of, you know, you said tell the truth. I'm gonna be telling the truth tonight.
Tell the truth.
There you go. So I appreciate the kind words and thanks for having me, and thanks for your words of encouragement too. I recently graduated, but it has not been easy to process graduating at this graduated age. So for you to say what you said, it means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Hey man, let me just say something to you, Honors, because I definitely admire you as well. I've been watching you, just so you know, brother, prior to the Umar Johnson videos, which brings a lot of people over. I had been watching your channel and was aware of you prior to all of that type of content, which is why I have a different perspective personally about you, because I know that you were doing other types of content, and I definitely loved the way you and your wife, your family, the way you would talk about family values, manhood, and what have you. But I want to let you know something. When I was in college, there were a lot of people in college that were 60 years old, 70 years old, getting degrees, master's degrees, BA degrees. There's a lot of people who went back, who were in school, who left school for personal reasons, financial reasons, and they came back and completed. That's the reason why I said, even though we want to achieve things earlier in life to be able to get the benefits of that long term, it's really what you're doing now and how things in the legacy that you're building. And you're also putting an example out there for not only your children and your own family, but you may have inspired other people. You sent me an email about someone who emailed you who was inspired by your story and what you did. So you can always correct wrongs, improve yourself, because no matter how old we get, Neely Fuller Jr. is someone I always looked up to, and he always would say this when he would be interviewed. They would ask him, "How are you doing, Neely?" And he would always say, "I'm still learning." That man was late 70s and late 80s. He said, "I'm still learning." So we're always learning. There's no end to it. As long as you got 2 legs, 2 feet, you're moving, you're kicking it, you're going to keep learning. And you said yourself, Honors, that you want to get more advanced education. You want to get more certifications. Keep doing it, brother. Don't let the haters and the critics, because while they're hating and talking and critiquing you, you're moving forward, upwards and onward. And that's what it's really all about, brother. I want to definitely tell you that. Now, let's get to it here, what people are waiting for. I want to ask you the genesis of an Honors. What brought you to YouTube in the first place? You know, because you're from LA, you lived in the Oakland and the Berkeley area, which I'm very familiar with. What brought you to this place?
Yeah, I never lived in LA. I lived in San Diego.
San Diego.
Yes,
Okay, stand corrected.
Yeah. And we're gonna be telling the truth. I did.
Tell the truth.
That's right. I lived in Oakland where I met my wife. We met in Berkeley. I wasn't on YouTube at that time. Later, I got into YouTube. I don't even know if you know this, but I got into YouTube via the conspiracy theory paradigm. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know. Now, I used to be into conspiracy theory pretty heavy myself, but I wasn't I think I didn't, maybe I missed some of that content but go ahead. Let us know.
Yeah, so this was probably 2006, 2007, maybe.
Okay.
And I can tell you how I got introduced to the conspiracy theory paradigm. I was working on a music album. It was an album for my son.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was the guy that was recording the album. I was recording at his house. He had a small little studio. It wasn't anything major, and I was recording at his house. We were working through all these different tracks. And at a certain point, he had a roommate that came in, and we had finished the session. The roommate came in and was like, "Should we tell him?" And I was sitting like, and then my homeboy, he was like, "I don't think he's ready." I was like, and it sparked my interest. I was like, okay. I was like, "Well, what are you guys talking about?" And he was like, "I don't know if we should tell him." And, his roommate went and got a book and brought it back. It was a book. I don't know how deep you got into conspiracy theory, but I mean, when I say I went deep, I mean, I got consumed by it to the point where it affected me in my life personally, and it affected me for over a decade from the time that I got into it. And when I say affected, I'm saying in a negative way. It really had a negative effect on me. So the book he brought out was a book by someone named David Icke. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with him.
The book was called The Biggest Secret. And I can't remember if he let me use it or if I'd gone and got another copy, but I ended up getting a copy of it and I read through it, and I just didn't read through it once. I read through it like maybe 3 times, and that's kind of spiraled me into the whole conspiracy theory paradigm. And for those of you in the audience, if you don't know what the conspiracy theory paradigm, it's rooted in this idea that there is secret societies or organizations that run the world, and that they use different techniques to mind control and manipulate and control the human population. Media manipulation is an example of that. Subliminal message is an example of that. We're talking FEMA death camps. We're talking HARP. We're talking the Bilderbergs. We're talking the Trilateral Commission with David Icke, reptilian shapeshifters, martial law. Okay, people like Alex Jones. I got into Alex Jones. I got into Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tessarion. People like that. That was my introduction into YouTube, because I was consuming that information. And once I got into that information, I started to actually produce content that was reflective of that mentality.
I used to, everybody that you just named, I was heavily involved in following them. David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, but I got one for you.
What about William Cooper? Did you ever get into him?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I got the book, Beheld of the Pale Horse, right? And look, this is another one, brother. This is another one. I got to tell you that. This is another one. Another book. What's the other book? John Perkins, economic. You ever heard of John Perkins, economic hitman? Economic hit.
Economic hitman, because he had videos on YouTube, didn't he?
Right. I think it's John Perkins. He talked about the World's Bank, the IMF Bank, and how they take over countries and what have you. I think David Icke was into the reptilian race.
You're right.
So, and then you got the Rothschild family and the 25-point plan for world domination and control.
The Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, I know. The
Right.
Illuminati,
So-
the Freemasons. Yeah.
So I used to follow all of that stuff too. And then I got a whole file at home of all these document stuff that I digged up. But then I kind of veered away from that as you begin to see that you begin to understand that there's some stuff that's truth. And then there's also bull crap, as they say. So you got on YouTube and you were getting into the conspiracy types of content. And then what happened, Brother Honor? How did it shift over to some of the videos that you've done around family, responsibility as a man, a family man? How did that all shift?
Yeah, the transition was, I went from conspiracy theory and I consumed it to the point where it had a very negative effect on me.
Oh my goodness.
Once you get into it, and I mean, when I say I got into it deep, it was all consuming. I would go driving to work, I'm thinking about conspiracy theories. I'm always in fear. While I'm at work, I'm thinking about conspiracy theories. When I go to the next job, I did like at 1.3 part-time jobs. I was go place. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always thinking about conspiracy theories. And I get home and then I would watch more videos of conspiracy theories. I ordered books, especially David Icke. Credo Mutua was another person that I got into. Kathy O'Brien, The Transformation of America was a book. There was also one called Thanks for the Memories. That really messed me up. One of the major themes in the conspiracy theories was that not only do these secret societies, they're worse, they're practicing Satanists, but they're also pedophiles. I had a lot of fear about that because I had young children. Yeah, I had young children, and that was one of my greatest fears. And so what I'm getting to here is, as I consume more of this information, I started to become paranoid. I started to have a serious anxiety issues. I started to kind of back away from society and the world, because the way that the whole conspiracy theory paradigm spins the world is as if it's such a horrible place. Martial law is coming to your town. FEMA death camps. They're going to be doing population reduction. Remember chemtrails?
Yes.
Let me give you. I'm gonna give you 3 examples of what I mean by where mentally I got.
Okay. Let me do this real quick.
Yeah.
Everybody, we have a lot of great people in the chat room, and I just want to thank everybody that's here. Give you all a clap. I see it's your boy in the house. Toto Butterfly in the house. Don M is in the house. Yalfi is in the house. Jill's Chocolate Boutique. MK Kim's Bling. A Lady 747. Just a lot of people. Just Alicia's Tate is in the house. The Butterflies, I had said before. A lot of great people that have come in. K Diggs, Belly Palmas. I want to thank everybody that's here. No Nonsense. Superhero School 101. And folks, don't go nowhere, because I have lots of questions to ask Brother Honors with the time that we have with him here. And of course, he is going live today, so don't miss his program after this. But Honors, go right ahead, as I will periodically shout people out in the chat room. We got Ed Thomas, a lot of great people. But I thank you all for being. I'm going to give you a clap again. Thank you all. Appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Subscribe, hit the bell notification if you want more content like this. And so go on, Brother Honor. Let's hear it.
Okay, and again, I'm going to transition to how I start to get into other topics. But
oh yeah, no problem.
To understand the trajectory, I think it's important to understand my mental state during that time, based upon the information I was consuming. The thing is that if you're always focused on fear and fear-based content, at a certain point, it's going to start to affect you, and it affects you physically. It affects you physically. It affects you emotionally. It affects you mentally as well. And it really took me out to the point where the idea of trusting society and trusting the government, trusting any type of institution that we would consider to have power, I'd gotten to the point where I was just fearful of everything. I want to give some examples of how
Okay.
far I went into this.
Yes.
In addition to producing content and reading content, buying DVDs, I remember I bought all of Jordan Maxwell's DVDs, and I would play them over and over again. When I got the Reptilian Agenda, that was Credo Mutwa, and David Icke was the one who brought him onto the scene, kind of, brought him into prominence. He had a DVD, I think it was like a 4 DVD set, and I would literally watch it over and over and over and over again. What it did was it impacted my view on the world, but it also impacted me emotionally because I was always fearful that something bad was going to happen. I think that's also associated with childhood stuff too. But the other thing is that I started to kind of lose track of what was real and what was not. Let me give you some examples real quick.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it. And I want to say peace to Scam Likely, the Great Pill Podcast, Freeman, Peggy Roster, Jonathan Kidd, all of you that are coming in, French Wee, just so many great people coming over. Go ahead, Honors. I'm just happy to see a lot of folks that I'm familiar with over here tonight. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the major conspiracy theories that was taking place at that time was chemtrails. Mm-hmm. And some of you guys may be familiar with that. There were a lot of different theories about what that was all about. Some people said it was to make people sick. Some people said that it was to change the weather, to augment weather conditions in certain areas. Some people said that it was a way to shield certain locations from satellite imagery. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And before I got into that information, I would see airplanes flying by, and there'll be a trail behind them. But I didn't think anything of it. But once I started getting to the chemtrails, every single airplane that I would see, I would think that they were spraying some type of toxic substance, and it was like population control. So it got so bad for me that when I would look outside and I would see planes flying by, I would not want to go outside. And I remember it got so bad where I actually had a like COVID mask. We used to have those. I used to put those on and go out and get in the car and it was wild. Now when I think about it now, it just goes to show you the power and influence of what media can do, but also that if you're not clear in your directions in life, how you can be easily consumed and impacted by it, and it affects you in very real ways. So another one was helicopters. So where we lived at that time, there would be helicopters that would fly by. And before I got into the conspiracy theory paradigm, it's like no big deal. But once I got into the conspiracy theory paradigm, I went down the so-called rabbit hole, and I went deep into it. Any helicopter I would see, I would think that this helicopter that it was trying to surveillance me, or here's the thing with the conspiracy theory paradigm. At first, when I got into it, I felt as if all of this information was directed towards everyone. And the systems of control is for everyone. But the more deeper I got into it, I started to personalize it, internalize it, and I thought that it was just about me. It's all directed towards me.
Well, let me ask you this real, if you don't want to answer it, it's okay, because, we're going to be fair here. But I got to be honest with you. It had to have had some effect on how you related to family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you get your head filled with all this kind of information, you begin to get paranoid about your kids, and you begin to it's called transference and projection. It begins to project towards your family members. You might even become distrusting of some family members.
No, you're right. I ruined friendships. I disconnected from certain family members. I became more defensive of my children and of my wife. One of the reasons why I didn't want my children in public school was because there was a lot of information about the Illuminati and pedophilia. Catherine Bryan talked about this. Transformation of America messed me up real bad. And the other book was Thanks for the Memories. Those two books. David Icke too, because he got into this stuff too, but not as deep, this aspect of it. And I began to, it was more of, I wanted to keep people safe. And I believed everything that I was learning at that time. And it just got out of hand. So, it affected relationships. It affected how I was operating as a man at that time. And I've said it before. I think that's I have a lot of regrets. That whole time period was one of the most regrettable times, because that was a time period where I really should have been focusing on handling business for my family. But I was so consumed by the conspiracy theory paradigm that I just got lost. I mean, and when I say lost, I mean I was so lost in it that sometimes I wonder how I even got out of it because I was so deep into it. It affected me in so many different ways. Let me give you two more examples of what I mean by how it impacted my mental state at that time. And some of y'all may say this is, really, really crazy. So David Icke talked about, and his work changed over time, but one of his preeminent conspiracy theories that got the most attention was the reptilian shapeshifter.
Oh, God.
And he had other people come on to kind of talk and no evidence whatsoever. I mean, I read all of his books up until the last book I read was the one that had the lion on the cover, but I read all the other ones over and over and over again, but there was never any conclusive evidence, but I believed. That's the whole thing about belief. I believed and I was just consuming all this information, and the reptilian shapeshifter idea was that there's this, it's interesting because he changed. First, it was these physical beings from another star system or whatever. It's like the whole Pleiadian things. God was deep into that stuff too. That they were controlling the ruling elite through bloodline. But then it transformed into they were ethereal beings that were out there in the cosmos somewhere in the spiritual plane, and they were controlling the global elite somehow, manipulate. But it's just the point I want to get to is I got so deep into that, and then it was verified in my mind when a South African named Credo Mutwa came on board with that, and he started to tell stories about the Chitahori. Man, I can't believe the Chitahori were the South African version of what David Icke was talking about.
Wow.
And so what I did was I bought all of Credo Mutwa's books. His books were like this thick, and I read over and over again. I watched his reptilian agenda video over and over and over again, and I believed everything. It came to a head one day, and at the time, my wife and I, we had 2 children. It came to a head one day when I looked out the window, and we were living in Southern California, so there's these palm trees all over the place. I looked out the window and down the hill a bit, and there was this palm tree. And if you guys look at palm trees, they have these ridges. They usually cut those ridges, and then it goes all the way up, and then you have the actual foliage up at the top. But if you look carefully, there's these ridges that go up, and if you go up to it and you strike it, you'll cut yourself because you can damage yourself. And I was looking at this palm tree, and the thought came into my mind, I bet you a reptilian shapeshifter would use that palm tree to scratch its back.
Oh, my God.
Okay, here I am with 2 young children, and I had gotten so deep into this that I can't even express to you. One of the biggest regrets of my life, and I produce content around these types of things too. One of the biggest regrets that I've had in my life. So to transition now to your question, I mean, there's so much more we can talk about just from the conspiracy theory standpoint.
Let me just say this to you, brother Honors. The ideology and the consuming of this kind of material and how it can alter your thinking and your mind and your spirit and the way you behave is the same way that a cult controls people. Okay.
Right.
Now, as it relates to Umar Johnson, we wonder why he's able to have this effect on people who support him continuously, even though we know that he's not being an honest broker. It's the same methodology. When you see Umar constantly repeating over and over again and saying, hit that Cash App and promising things, people want to believe even when they know a part of them know that it's a lie. So I just wanted to add that because that works in the same way with everything else that can brainwash you, even people that look like us promising us things. Go ahead, Honor.
It's interesting that you bring up cult. And I don't even know how deep you want to go. I know I have.
I want to go deep, brother. This is the Information Man show.
Yeah, if you want to
tell the truth,
we can do that.
I want to go deep. Tell the truth. That's right. That's right.
Tell the truth.
Let me share something else with you, because actually this is an epiphany that I had after I graduated, because I've been thinking about why, and I know why, some of the reasons why, but I've been thinking about why I failed so much in my life. And at this point, my wife and I, we have 5 children. We don't plan on having any other ones. but we are blessed with these babies. Well, not babies. Some of them grown. But the point is, I can't say that now. The point is that at my age and to have these children, you know, back when I got in conspiracy theory, I had a son, and then we had our second son. But I have to share this because I had an epiphany because I've been really soul searching since I graduated. You know, it's an achievement, but I've been feeling really guilty about you know, not handling business soon. I have a lot of regret and shame, you know, about where I've been and you know, just in life. But I was thinking about the conspiracy theory paradigm because I think that out of everything in my life outside of my childhood, the conspiracy theory paradigm was what really got me off track. I was already lost, but it got me so far off track. And I was wondering how was it that I was so susceptible to it? And the thing is, I thought I knew the truth. You know, I thought I was special. I thought that I knew things that other people did not know. Well, that's a cult.
Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
That's how it works. People think that, and then when I said that in my mind, I said, wait a minute. A lot of people don't know this, but I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
Now, it's funny you would say that because I have experience with Jehovah's Witness religion as well. I've got people in my family that so I understand it. Go ahead.
So when that epiphany came to mind, I was thinking about how I was so consumed by the conspiracy theory. And I have a sense that my religiocentric programming prepared me for the conspiracy theory paradigm. Because let me give you an example of what I mean. They used to say things like, we know the truth and everyone else is a sheeple. I'm talking about in conspiracy theory paradigm. Everyone else is a sheeple. They're sheep and they're asleep. You ever remember any of that? And this sense of self-righteousness, and this sense that you're better than everyone else and you're superior because you know the truth. Okay? Or at least I thought I did know the truth and I was in conspiracy theory paradigm. Okay?
Right. And religion is the same thing. Wow. Continue, brother.
Listen, witnesses, it's the same thing. We know the truth. Everyone else is of the world. The world is evil. It's demonic. And since we know the truth, we are better than everyone else. It's not stated that way, but that is what it is. You know, and people believe based upon this programming, and I got the programming from a very early age, and I never accepted it as being the quote unquote truth. And I was always defiant, but the programming was still there. And I have a sense that programming that I got from being brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, it prepared me to be susceptible to this conspiracy theory paradigm. Because the conspiracy theory paradigm, we know everything, everyone else is asleep, we know the truth, they're sheeple, we're better than everybody else. And that's the same way that I kind of got into the conspiracy theory program. And I basically reenacted the same type of mentality that was associated with what we were being taught as Jehovah's Witnesses. Now,
so you were already programmed to accept any other similar ideology or philosophy because you were primed through the Jehovah. And I know something about that because I have family members that are Jehovah's Witness. My mom went through that and she had to break away from it because it does program you. But can I say in general, because I don't want to I know there's people that are spiritual and there's people that are religious, or they believe they go to church, but I think they're different. Being spiritual is not the same as being religious, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. But there are people who get programmed by religion, which for the most part, if you look at it, agree or disagree with me, there's a certain social programming that religion puts you through. It can be utilized to socially control people to think how you want them to think and act the way you want them to act and respond the way you want to get a response out of them based on that. Because if you look at our history, many wars have been fought over religion. But go ahead, brother. You're cooking real good today.
I mean, and there's so much more that I can say just in terms of the childhood upbringing, whether it's just in my family dynamics or from the religion standpoint. But that epiphany, I had that recently, and it was kind of shocking, you know. So when I get into the conspiracy theory paradigm, this is, of course, you know, a decade and a half later, from the time that, I think by the time maybe I was 13 or 14, I wasn't being forced to go to these Jehovah's Witness meetings. I remember there were meetings on Monday. There was book study on Thursday. There was field service on Saturday, and then there was another meeting on Sunday. So to be consumed by this type of programming, it really can have a devastating impact on people. And I want to say this: I'm not here to disparage anyone's religion, nor am I here to disparage Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm just saying that from my personal experience and what I experienced, it was not conducive to me growing and maturing and having a full life. It may be for other people, but for me, that was not the case. And when I look at the programming in terms of indoctrination and the cult-like aspect of it is no different than the programming and cult-like aspect of the conspiracy theory paradigm.
Wow.
So all this being said, the conspiracy theory paradigm was largely centered around the physicality and our physical existence, martial law, FEMA death camps, FEMA coffins, you know, all these different things, physical. But there were a couple of people who bridge the gap between the physical aspect and what we would perceive to be the spiritual aspect. People like Michael Tsarion. There were a lot of people on shows like back then. The show was called Project Camelot. They had people coming on. Some would specifically talk about, you know, the Bilderbergs and the Illuminati, but then others would talk more metaphysical, spiritual type of stuff. So my transition occurred when I had gotten so deep into the physical aspect of the conspiracy theory paradigm that I felt so disempowered, and I gotten so low in my life, and I gotten so lost at that time period that I was simply trying to find another solution to this physical problem that seemed to be a juggernaut that I could never overcome, that was targeting me, and I'm paranoid, blah, blah, blah. And what I go to from that point is the spirituality and metaphysics. That's when I started to get into people like Bobby Hemmett. You know, I started to get into people like Dr. Valentine. I started to get, there was another brother, I always forget his name, Dr. Delbert Blair. Okay.
Yeah. He talks about a lot of pyramids and all sorts of things out there, sort of stuff. Go ahead, brother.
And those are some of the black folk that I was getting into. But there were other people too. You know, I remember there's this one guy. There was this one guy, I can't remember his name, but I was so intrigued by this guy. And the idea, it was transcendence, transcending the physical aspect. And because the world is so bad, see, same thing with your witness programming. The world is so bad, we have to find some solution that reaches beyond the physical. And at that point, that's all I could think about in order to kind of deal with the stress and the anxiety and the paranoia and all this physical drama that I perceived to exist, that I believe was real. I was delusional. Let me be real about it. Just delusional and lost. Have 2 children, young. It's sad. You know, I have so many regrets about that. So what ends up happening is I make this transition into spirituality and metaphysics. I start consuming a lot of that information, and I worked with that information for quite some time because I in my mind I felt like, okay, this is the way to transcend this quote unquote matrix. Right, that's the kind of terminology we used to use back then. But the
matrix.
The metaphysics and spirituality paradigm was just escapism for me. That's all it was. See, the whole time, throughout this whole time, I still was not handling my business as a man.
Okay.
See, I was so consumed by these things, and I believed that these things were the answer. But the whole time, I'm moving from one thing to the next. As a form of escapism, instead of dealing with what I should have been dealing with, mainly, which should have been taking care of my family the way that I should have taken care of my family. Go ahead.
So what you say, that delving into those areas, in a nutshell, hampered your development educationally in your educational pursuits as to achieve what you are now achieving now. That getting involved in those things that are sort of cult-like in nature impacted you to be of better service to your family, to your wife, to your children. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, but
I want to be. I don't want to say anything that doesn't sound.
You're right, but the
correct.
transition to me really finally figuring it out to where I was focusing on the right things took place much later. That's the sad part about all of this. It took place much later, and it could have taken place much sooner. The other thing too is that it's not just the conspiracy theory, the metaphysics and spirituality paradigm that hampered me. I was already hampered. I was already delayed before that. Part of it was just my upbringing, my childhood upbringing. There's things that, I mean, even when I talk to my children and talk to my sons in particular, there's things that I say, and it's just casual conversations that I can look back and I wish that I had that type of guidance earlier on, because I recognize that would have probably put me on track a lot sooner. Okay, it could have made the difference. As an example, what I mean by that is, let's say that my son, he gets into conspiracy theories. One of my sons gets into conspiracy theories, or even one of my daughters. Now, I wouldn't say don't do it. What I would say is be cautious. Okay, be careful of how deep you go into this. Don't get so wrapped up into it to where you lose track of reality and you become delusional. See, but I didn't have that guidance in my life, even at that point. But even before I got into it, I didn't have that. I was already floundering and lost in a sense. What the conspiracy theory paradigm, and then get into the metaphysical and spirituality paradigm, what it did was it further delayed my development into recognizing exactly what I needed and what I should have been taking care of, and really focusing on, which was taking care of my young family at that time. So real quick, so I go from the conspiracy theory paradigm. Before the conspiracy theory paradigm, when I was in college, I was deep into Black consciousness, wearing dashikis and all this type of thing. And we don't even have to get into that. But once I started having children, that's when I get into the conspiracy theory paradigm. And then I transitioned into the metaphysics and spirituality. And then at a certain point, I started to kind of recognize that something wasn't right. And I looked at my family dynamics, or my young children at the time, and my wife, and I just looked at how things were, and I said, wait a minute, something's not right here. And that's when I started to talk more about manhood and family. But really what I was doing was I was attempting to try to figure things out as I'm transitioning away from the conspiracy theory paradigm, the spirituality, metaphysical. It was almost like I'm trying to teach myself, and then, teach other people too, but teach myself what I needed to do in order to come up from the muck and mire of that. And it took many, many years. It took me, in fact, I wouldn't even say that I've gotten a firm grasp on things and really kind of gotten things settled in that really should have taken place 20 years ago, until about 4 years ago. And when I look at it,
Wow.
I can trace back from about 4 or 5 years ago, all the way back to when I got into conspiracy theory paradigm. And I can see how that time period of my life affected the next decade of my life, the next 15
Wow.
years of my life, to where I'm at today. So this ought to say that, real quick, the reason why I got onto YouTube was because of the conspiracy theory paradigm. And I produced content that was reflective of that. Then I did the spirituality stuff. Then I started to kind of come up out of that, and I started to do more manhood, fatherhood. There was other things too that I got into, media mind control and subliminal messages and all this type of thing. And then more recently, I started to come up out of that and kind of in my own personal life, put the pieces back together and then get back on track. And I feel like I've done a good job of doing that. It's just I have regrets about decisions that I've made in the past, that if I'd made different decisions, then, perhaps my family wouldn't have had to suffer in certain types of ways. Perhaps, my wife would have been happier. Perhaps my children would have had more of what they needed that I should have provided for them. I have a lot of regrets about that.
Well, I think for everyone listening, what it shows is that certain ideologies and certain things that you get indoctrinated by, it has a strong grip on you that can carry with you into your development and your age. And you look, I was involved in conspiracy, and I got to be honest, the deeper I got into it, the more wackier I started thinking about things.
Yeah, me too.
And I had to pull out of it. I probably wasn't as deep into it as you were, but I did have to pull away from it because it was making me become paranoid.
Yep.
And when you become paranoid, it's almost like being on drugs, like a drug addict, because you become paranoid of everything around you. You're checking this, you're checking that. So I think heightened awareness is important, Brother Honor, but I think we can go way too far. And I'm glad you said what you said, because I kind of figured as you were speaking that some of that was the baby steps that led you possibly in what we call the Black conscious community, where you have talked about this on your channel. Many of us are seeing there is some, how can I say this? There's been some inconsistencies, some hypocritical things coming out of that particular community. And I was saying to myself last night, it's crazy to me. I'm talking in terms of Black people, and it's just all people do this though. But people have used the internet. I don't know if the internet has been a God-given or a sin, because people have used the internet as a way, particularly in the Black community, to scam Black people. You have Black people who get on the internet to scam Black people, and they promise you all these different things, right? Oh, I've got this magic tonic, this magic lotion. Oh, I discovered the secret to the cure to cancer. You got to eat these vegetables here, and I got this special tonic. And then you go look on their website, and it's costing an astronomical amount of money. So everybody has figured out a way using these ideologies, even the conspiracy people. When you look at someone like Alex Jones, and you look at, he's telling you all this conspiracy stuff, and he's selling you all this other stuff, right? They get the books, they get the videos, they're selling you all kind of stuff to lure you in deeper. And when you look at the Black conscious community, if you can even call it conscious, I'm not indicting everybody, but certainly it has that same sort of flavor, right? And another thing, would you agree or disagree with me that when you talk about religion, especially with Black people growing up as Christian, we have been oriented and very used to a preacher who has a cadence where they repeat things. I've always said that's one of the reasons why I think Umar has special powers, because he has this cadence in his voice that reminds you of a preacher. And people who are cult leaders do the same thing. Check this out. You probably remember this because you lived in the Bay Area too, like myself. I grew up in the Fillmore area where you had the Jim Jones, the People's Temple. I know people that were in that church that lost their family. I used to walk past that as a young kid. So I saw what was happening to people in this one Messiah mentality, that we follow this one person as a Messiah. And is that what, and you probably already said this already, but did that kind of influence you to get into that part, the Black conscious movement, and sort of, because when I look at some of your older pictures, you can look at pictures and you can see how people are transitioning, right? The dashiki, the hand movement, you know, the way, I'm like, am I hitting on something correct here or what?
The thing is that I've always attempted to make a distinction between the grassroots Black conscious community and the internet-based Black conscious community.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so there was a difference. And what I mean by that is my introduction into the Black conscious community, it was not internet-based. In fact, back then, we didn't really have access to the internet. Okay? I mean, I would watch Black consciousness tapes, like, remember VHS tapes, that type of thing? So we're going way back. Then DVDs, CDs came out, DVDs. So my introduction into the Black conscious community, it was more grassroots. Katie Owadu, I got into him. I got into Ashwa Kwesi. They were all over. They're all in Southern California at that time. I remember I was at UC Irvine the first time I was in college, and I would go up to not UC, but Cal State Long Beach, because they would have a lot of speakers that would come out there that we would consider to be Black conscious. But that was the physical Black conscious community that was grassroots. It wasn't until much later that you start to see these outcroppings of internet-based Black conscious leaders. And that's when you get into people who, they don't necessarily do things in the community. It's more like everything is online. And that's when they start to make promises to people that this is going to do this is going to solve this problem, this is going to do that. Now give me the money. Whereas back in the day, it wasn't like that. So when I say Black conscious community, my introduction was probably when I was in 18. So from 18 until maybe 23-ish, I was deep into it, dashikis and all that type of stuff, reading all types of books. One of the books that really had an impact on me dealing with symbolism was Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. That had a big impact on me.
Oh, I loved her.
Yeah, yeah. So just to give you an idea, but then there was a major transition from the grassroots Black conscious community that I remember to the internet-based one, where that is where people utilize the internet simply to make promises to Black people that I'm going to solve these problems for you, but I need you to give me your money, and that's when we get into people like Umar. Because that is
Right.
in fact what he has done. It's always a promise. See, it's one thing if someone is providing you a service, or let's say if someone's just let's say that they're asking for money for some cause or whatever, that's understandable. But if someone's asking for money and they make you a promise and that they're going to do something for you and they never deliver on that, that's when you start to get into problems. And in Umar Johnson's case, the main thing that I focused on over the years has been Umar Johnson making the claim and the promise that he's going to open up the school. He said in 2010 that the school was going to open in September of 2013. Here we are now in 2023, and there is still no school that is open, and he continues to ask for money. That's a problem.
You know, what's interesting about what you're saying here, when we look at people like Dr. King, Malcolm X, people who would make their promises to Black people by putting their boots on the ground.
On the ground.
You could actually see what they were doing that was benefiting the community. And it seems like in the 21st century, and this is a sad commentary, Brother Honors, it seems like the boots on the ground has dissipated, and the internet revolutionary who makes promises, like you said, wants you to give him all this money and continues to move the bar every year. It seems that Black people are being galvanized by these internet revolutionaries who are now asking you for something, but then may not deliver. But then you had the tangible works of a Malcolm X and many Black leaders, a Shirley Chisholm, a Thurgood Marshall, an Adam Clayton Powell, many out there who are actually doing it, and you could see it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a generational change. But let me do this. I want to say thank you to Brother Cap, who gave me the super chat not too long ago. And I've just now received another super chat here from that sector weirdo. And the sector weirdo, let me read off my other computer here because for some reason I can't see it over here. The sector weirdo says, would Honors consider doing videos exposing the pro-Black worship of Dr. York on a clubhouse room called Save Dr. York? There are hundreds of hours dedicated free. The conversation molester. So I don't know about that. I think I heard you talk about Dr. York and what have you, and that whole situation, which I think is horrible. But to keep us on flow here, Brother Honor, so you transition from the conspiracy theory. You're now starting to transition, going into the Black conscious movement and transitioning out of that. Take us from there.
Okay, real quick. Black conscious community was early. That was first.
Okay.
So yeah, Black conscious community, grassroots. That was from probably the age 18 until maybe 23 years old.
Yes.
The conspiracy theory paradigm, I would say from 20, maybe 26 until maybe 32, maybe. And then I started to get in spirituality and metaphysics, but I still held on to a lot of the conspiracy theory stuff. It's just that the metaphysics spirituality content, it made me feel as if I can just transcend the physical aspect of how bad the world was. You know, I have to share something else with you because you talk
Go
about
ahead.
the truth, man.
Yeah, I want truth over here.
Tell the truth.
But let me also do this. Let me thank that sector weirdo for the $24 super chat. Thank you.
Thank you for the super chat.
And once again, Brother Cap for the super chat as well.
Thank you for the super chat.
And for everybody, we got God's Little Princess. We got BB Silks who's in here. Mr. 85 is in here. Empress Goddess Priest is in here. Just name me a few people as I'm able to see them. Jonathan Kidd, Yalfi, a lot of great people in the chat room. We got Black Anonymous. Black Anonymous is in the house. He's here. Thank you. Patora Afro, thank you for coming over. A lot of great people that are in the house that were looking forward to this interview, but go right ahead, Honors. You've got the floor, brother. I think people are captivated by everything that you've been saying. I've learned some new things about you in hearing you break these things down that is now opening up. See, this is about people getting another perspective about you other than just, well, he does the Umar Johnson videos. People need to know that there's a lot more complexity to you, the man, Honor. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to, I just got to put because I got to make sure that I hit on this point. Because it's sad. It is so sad. I think about this from time
Tell the
to
truth.
Man, if you don't mind, real quick, I want to say something though, because the person brought up Dr. York.
Yes.
I have an extreme aversion for pedophiles. When I got into the conspiracy theory paradigm, one of the main conspiracy theories was that the global elite, the Illuminati, that they, in addition to practicing Satanism, that they were also a pedophile ring, if you will.
Oh my goodness.
And I became very hyper vigilant about that. I became so and very protective, and I'm still hyper vigilant to this day. I don't let my children go over the younger ones, especially. Don't let them go over, especially my daughters. They ain't going over nobody's house unless someone's an adult is accompanying them. It's that,
Facts.
you know what I'm saying? It's one thing to be protective, but it's another thing to be hyper vigilant. Back then, I was hyper vigilant, and in fact, my conspiracy theory films that I did, a lot of it centered around that, and it was my way of saying, what can I do in order to keep children safe? Because I know what it's like to grow up and not feel safe. Yeah, that's getting into the childhood stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been molested, but I know people who were. And there were people that if I was stronger and if I was wiser in my young age as a child, I could have protected. And I have a lot of regret about that too. So I'm bringing this up because someone like Dr. York, and I'm going to say this too, I tried to do videos on polite, but what I found at a certain point was that it caused me to become extremely, I don't even know what the word is, but it's like I couldn't process and handle and talk about this guy knowing what he's been accused of and do it rationally. It was like, you know, a lot of anger, you know, a lot of frustration.
Is it because you have kids of your own? Because I know I have a daughter and I'm very sensitive about these issues because I always think about what if someone was to do this to my child and what I would do.
Yeah. Well, that's in my life, that's one of my greatest fears. And it has been since I had children. Man, I gotta tell you something. During the time period when I was
Tell the truth.
Yeah, that's right. When I was doing conspiracy theories and a lot of propaganda about pedophiles. Now let me say this: there, it is an issue. It's a major issue. You look at the guy that killed himself in prison. Was it Epstein or whatever? And everything that he was doing. I can't remember his first name right now. And just trafficking young girls and all that stuff. This is real stuff. But the thing is that back then, when I was in the conspiracy theory, everything I became hyper vigilant and paranoid to the extreme. And I remember, and this is what really got me to the point where I don't think I've ever recovered from this. Meaning that I can look at pedophiles or people like that in a balanced way. You know, I remember that during that time period when I was getting into conspiracy theories, and that was one of the main conspiracy theories was that the Illuminati, they were Satanists. And that they were pedophiles and they engaged in homosexuality and all this type of stuff. When I was getting into all this stuff, I was working on music for this guy, and he came to the house like twice. Okay, and it wasn't like he was there long, you know, just checking on the music that I was working on for him. But we were recording his album at a studio in downtown San Diego, and at a certain point.
Wow.
When I was downtown San Diego working with the guy on his, because I would go down and we would work on the music down there. The guy that that hired me to do the music for him, he stopped showing up. And at a certain point, I asked the studio technician, and I said, "Where is this guy at? Because I'm coming, you know." And what was crazy was I wasn't receiving checks from the guy who hired me. The guy who hired me would give checks, or whoever would give checks to the guy down at the studio, and he would give it to me. And I was just real strange. Well, Lord, come to find out, this guy stopped showing up because he was on trial for child molestation.
Man.
And he was a teacher in San Diego.
Boy.
So this guy, I had this guy, you can tell it pisses me off. I had this guy at my house. He was there like twice. My wife
And your kids are in the house.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh
So
my God.
After that happened, I just got so hyper vigilant and overprotected, protective. I was already paranoid. That guy, he ended up being sentenced for I don't even know how long. I can't even remember. But it really shook me to the core. You know, it really. And I hadn't even thought about it. I haven't thought about it in years. But now that we're talking about people like Polite, we talk about York. It came back to mind in this moment. And I'm saying that to say that I'm still hyper vigilant to this day. And on some level, it's irrational because it's one thing to be protective, but it's another thing to be overly protective.
Yes.
And I've been overly protective, but I can also say that to the best of my knowledge, none of my children have fallen victim to that. And that has always been one of my greatest fears. You see?
Wow.
I wanted to say one other thing, and this is about, because you were saying I got into the Black conscious community, then I got into this the conspiracy theory paradigm. Then I started to transition into spirituality, which is really just a diversion. It was really my way of escaping from what I perceived to be the horrors of the physical world based on the conspiracy theory, mind control programming. Another one of my biggest regrets was that during that time period, I started to associate spirituality with poverty. The idea was, it's like, I don't know if anyone's ever heard this term, but the poor righteous teacher.
Oh, I've heard of that.
That's another paradigm and another program that I had adopted during that time period, which legitimized, at least in my mind, how we were living during that time period. It's such a shame, such a fucking shame, man.
Tell the truth.
I feel where you're coming from because, like yourself, I have a child. You have more children than I do, but I have a disdain for people who do that. Honest, let me tell you something, brother. You're going to be shocked by what I'm going to tell you. Because of the kind of work that I do, I actually deal with and run across individuals that have done horrible things to children, women, adults, people. But I have to be professional when I deal with them because they're already incarcerated and paying the price for, in that sense, in jail or prison. And then I'm working on a mental health unit. And I get a chance to see some of the things, and it is horrible. And I have to figure out how to switch things off because when you have kids and have family, you often will think about what would I do to this individual if I got my hands on them. So I have no tolerance for people who engage in that type of behavior. But I have to unfortunately say I have talked to and I have dissected the minds of these kind of individuals, and it's so deeply sick you wouldn't believe how deeply sick the pathology goes with people who do these sort of things. I didn't mean to open up this can of worms because this can of emotions, because a lot of people in the chat room are feeling what you're saying and they're actually blown away. I don't know, brother.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
You just don't know who's around you. You don't know their backgrounds. And that's why what you said earlier, when I'm old school like yourself, when I grew up, my parents knew the kids that I played with outside. They knew the parents of those kids. They knew who the parents were. They knew what the households looked like. They had, you can't trust anybody, but it seems like nowadays we've kind of lost that sense of community where people kind of know. I want to know who are the kids that my child is hanging out with.
Yeah.
What's the values of their parents? What's the household? We have to be on alert right now. And I got to be honest. I didn't want to open up these emotional issues like this, but our kids, as you already know, children in general are being over sexualized in our society today. And I'm gonna leave it at that. You know how YouTube is.
Yeah. If I can comment on that too, because
yes, you can, brother.
If people go and look at my conspiracy theory work, a lot of it centered around this very topic. It's just it was me expressing my greatest fears, but in the process attempting to try to help parents to keep their children safe. It's just I took things over the top. I just went way overboard, and part of it was because I had been so indoctrinated to the conspiracy theory paradigm that I was looking to prove things that I believed to be true, but that there was no clear evidence of, and that's a very dangerous place to be. That's the cult aspect of it, So the whole experience that I had with that guy, and I can't even remember how many years he got. It was I thought it was like 12 or 15 years or something like that. That really pushed me over the edge. I was already hyper vigilant. I was already, in essence, mind controlled by the conspiracy theory paradigm. But that really pushed me over the top. And then that's when I got into the spirituality and metaphysics. But I went over the top on that. And I associated spirituality and metaphysics with being poor and that it was noble. And here I am. Wow. And then at that time, now I have 3 children. It's such a shame. It really is. It was such a shame. And what happens as I progress through the metaphysics spirituality paradigm is I still hold on to aspects of the conspiracy theory paradigm. Media manipulation. I had a show called Media Manipulation, and I started to talk more about subliminal messages and this type of thing. But it wasn't until a little bit later that I started to finally come up out of that fog where I started to kind of put pieces together. And I said, wait a minute, I need to start getting my personal life together because I can't have my family living like that. I got to set a better example. And so in essence, it was almost as if I'm trying to teach myself how to be the man that I needed to be. And the man that I needed to be was very much slowed in progressions because of all of the content that I've been consuming for almost a decade, So that's when I started to get more into the manhood and talk more about family. My wife and I, we used to do shows to talk about relationships. Here's the thing. I got to say this because I don't want to make it sound doom and gloomy.
No, but see, honest, this is important because it shows as a man, and you know this, it shows a level of progression as men, as people, as humans, as women. We go through progressions. Everyone's journey is different, but that journey is making you who you are today and where you're trying to go. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, and I agree. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And it's good to hear that from another brother too, because we need that. None of us come onto the planet with everything in order, and some of us, we have more guidance and we have more wisdom. It's just during that time period in my life that I'm speaking about, I was totally lost. It reminds me of if anyone's ever been on a boat, and I'm talking about them old school boats that had rudders and you actually use your hand to move it. Well, I was like a ship out at sea without a rudder. And what was even crazier was I didn't even know where I was going. It's one thing to not have a rudder and know where you're going, because at least you can try to go that way. You can figure out some way to try to go that way, but it's another thing where you don't even know where you're going and you don't even have a rudder. Well, that was me. You see, and my family suffered because of it. I have so many regrets about that. But like you said, it is about our progressions in life. And I totally agree with that.
Let me just say this, brother. I've had ups and downs in my life. You're looking at a young man who I come from a very big family, but there were a lot of things about learning to be a man that I had to learn a lot on my own. There's a lot of struggles and things that I went through growing up in my family. When I went into school, you know what the school system does to some of our kids, especially black children. They are quick to label you learning disabled, quick to try to put you in certain type of classes, quick to try to keep you from things that can progress you, right? So you always were. So I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in my life to be where I am today. I don't think anybody in this chat room listening to us today, and I thank you all for being here. I think everybody in that chat room has a story to tell, and they have had some ups and downs and some bumps along the way. Yeah, it would be nice to be born into the world and everything is smooth sailing, but you have come out of this the better. Go ahead, brother. I want to continue for you to move us down this journey to where you are now. Continue to give us these pearls of wisdom and information.
Yeah. Well, let me say this though. We kind of started when I'm like 17, 18. And since you brought up your aspects of your childhood, I don't know if people know this or not, but I grew up in a household where drug addiction was a serious issue, and alcoholism, physical abuse. Verbal abuse too, but the physical abuse was the thing that really was a struggle for me to process. And I'm not just talking about me being abused physically. I'm talking about as the oldest male outside of my father in the home, that there was always this sense that I needed to keep everyone safe from my father, but I didn't have the physical prowess, and I didn't have the level of intellect needed in order to protect my siblings and to protect my mama. So I'm bringing this up too because I just want to put more of my struggles in life and kind of floundering around into perspective. It's not that I decided to get lost. It's just that for some of us, and really for all of us, there are things that we go through in life that do contribute to us making certain decisions later on in life that will lead us astray to where we're lost out at sea. And that was me. See, that was me. I don't use any of that as an excuse for why I made poor decisions. I just recognize that had a lot to do with why I made certain decisions. Even my sense of hypervigilance, it was there before I got into conspiracy theory. If you don't mind, I want to tell this story. And there's so many. I remember one.
Brother, it's about telling the truth.
Tell the truth.
And we want to hear it. This is about it.
There's two things I want to share. I remember one time my dad took me to a crack house.
Brother, I've seen a lot myself. Go ahead. I can't tell you what I've seen. Go ahead.
So in my adulthood, I've always told my children, in particular my boys, that you do not do drugs. You do not drink, because my dad was an alcoholic too. You do not do alcohol. You never hit a woman. Okay, your job is to protect the woman. I've told them from the beginning, and it didn't click in their mind until my mama was out here one time. Because I've talked with my sons openly about this. You never hit a woman. That's not what a manhood is, none of that. And one of my sons, and this was years ago, my mama was in the room and he was like, is it true that my dad's dad used to beat you? And my mom's face, you should have seen it. It was just something. It was, and she answered, because she's like that. She was like, yeah, that's when it clicked for them. Like, this is real. you know, and to grow up in that and to see that throughout my childhood. I've seen some horrific things that I would not want anyone else to see and experience. And then having this weight on my shoulders of, you know, the oldest male, that it's my job. I need to figure out a way to keep my family safe, but I was too small and too young to do it. That became an aspect of the hyper vigilism, if you will, if that's a word, that still played itself out later on in life. Let me give you an example of what I mean, how these experiences in life early on in life can impact us later on, because this goes all the way back to childhood and then bringing it to when my wife and I, we were living in Atlanta. So as many drug addicts have, they have a schedule. I used to call it a drug schedule. There's a certain time where they will sleep, and then there's a certain time where they will leave to go out to go get and find and get what they're looking for. And to be clear, I'm not here to disparage my father. I'm here to tell the truth. You know, I haven't talked with him. I don't even know. He doesn't even really come to mind these days. And I don't have any animosity towards him either, because I recognize that I've failed in my own regards as a father too, not to the same level and in the same aspects, but I recognize that no one's perfect. My father, at a certain point, and he did all types of drugs. It's just that at a certain point he got on crack, and that's the thing. You know, back then that was like, if you get to that point, and then he was alcoholic too, but he had a schedule, and the schedule was such that it was usually around 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. he would leave. And at that time, he had cars. He's lost cars. I remember there was a car that he promised that his daddy gave to him. He promised he's going to give it to me. He lost it for the crack.
Wow.
Devastating. You see? He would get, and so because we were, and it's not just me, my whole family, we were living in fear, walking on eggshells. He dominated the downstairs of the house. We was always upstairs, and we would come home from school. We couldn't even be downstairs. Just go back outside or go upstairs. That's how it was. He had his own bathroom down there where that's where he kept his drugs, and he had a closet down there where he kept things in there too. But because I was the oldest male, I always felt like I needed to protect my family. And so when my father would leave 10:30 p.m., sometimes 11, I would be up, even though I should be asleep because I had school in the morning. I would already be up because I'm scared. I used to make my own weapons and sleep with the weapons in my bed.
Wow.
That's wild. Can you imagine? You know.
Well, this is the thing. I grew up and I saw I had friends that sold drugs. I had a friend who died in a crack house. I've known people that were pimps, that were hustlers. The one thing that kept me out of trouble, Honor, is the fact that when I was a kid, I was an athlete. So I played a lot of sports, basketball, track, and I spent most of my time in the gym to get away from that type of environment. But the environment that I lived in, I couldn't help but know people who did a little bit of everything. So I grew up seeing a lot of things. I'm going to give you an example. You know the place that I'm about to name to you. In the Fillmore area of San Francisco, there was an infamous project called the Pink Palace. Remember that? Mm-hmm. They used to throw people right off the roof of it. Then there was Virgo. So I grew up in that environment where you had no choice but to know people because you were living and you're going to school with them. You're playing basketball with them. And I had people who did a little bit of everything. The only thing that kept me out of trouble was sports. And I had strong family that were there to guide me. But I could have easily been a guy in prison or someone because I had people that I knew that were trying to influence me to go down that road. And I was able to see where it led them. Yeah. So, brother, I feel everything that you're saying. Go ahead. Go right ahead. Continue with where you are.
You bring up so many important points. And even as you're speaking about that, another dynamic in my family was the gangbanging stuff. You know? And I never was a gangbanger, but I knew plenty of folk that did. And not just my generation, the generation after mine and the generation before mine. Okay.
Wow.
That took its toll, especially on the women who married these types of males. And then they have these children with these types of males. And, you know, they're drug addicts or they're alcoholics or gangbangers or all of the above. And then the impact that it had, not just on, you know, my family, but just it's like throughout my whole extended family, you know.
Wow.
So it wasn't just me suffering; it was many people suffering. And at a certain point in dealing with my father, when I got to the point where I gotten programmed by his schedule that when he would leave, I was already scared that he was there because at that point I thought he was going to kill us. You know, it was that bad. But when he would leave, I would go downstairs because I was fearful that someone else might come and break into the house and kill everybody. I mean, just to be in that mindset, it ain't no different than the conspiracy theory paradigm. I'm talking about when you're living in fear. It's just at that time, I'm 11, 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would do, instead of sleeping, I would stay up. And I remember I would lay down on the couch down there, and the whole time I couldn't go to sleep. And I should be asleep because I got to get up in the morning to go to school. And I would be down there, and then my mind would start racing where I'm thinking of all these bad things that are going to happen because either my father's going to come home and kill us or someone's going to break into the house and kill us. And I would do this routine where I would check all of the doors downstairs and the windows downstairs to make sure everything was locked and secure. And then I would lay down and I would get up, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later and do it again. And then I would lay down. And then 10, 15 minutes later, I would get up and do it again. And this would go on all throughout the night until I heard my father pull up in his car and I would run back upstairs. I'm saying this to say that the idea of a 11, 12, 13-year-old doing that, it becomes compulsive. And it just goes to show you how these things have real impact on our lives. It makes no sense I would go into the kitchen and open up the cabinets and look to make sure no one was in the cabinets. Couldn't nobody fit in them cabinets.
But you still have the paranoia.
Yeah, and who's going to fit inside a cabinet up there where we would put the cereal up in there? You know what I'm saying?
Look, it's the same thing when you consume this type of content.
Yeah, you're right.
Look, let me be honest with you, man. For the last couple of weeks, and I probably should have never did this, honest, I've been looking at, what's this thing? Missing 411. There's this guy. I've been listening to Coast to Coast AM. You know that.
Yeah.
And they get into this, they're getting into this extraterrestrial talk because the government is now showing us stuff. And I started consuming just a little bit of it, Brother Honor. And I'm finding myself in my room, in my living room. I'm in the lights turned off, and I'm like double checking stuff. And I'm saying I got to stop consuming this stuff. Yeah, I got to stop consuming. Go right ahead, man. That's how powerful it is.
That. Yeah, I know.
It enters your self-conscious mind and unconscious. Right. Go ahead.
Yep. The guy's last name back then when I was into that show was Nori, Dave or something Nori, something like that. Coast to Coast. I remember that. Yeah,
you listen to that stuff, man, and you'll start being paranoid, looking out the window, double checking your closets.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But this is before I get into the conspiracy. That's what I'm saying. My childhood really, it primed me for the conspiracy theory paradigm and just being fearful all the time and paranoid. So what would happen? My father would come home and I would run upstairs and I would get into bed and I may go back to sleep and sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. And I may sleep for 2 hours and I got to get up to go to school, and I would run this particular program over and over again. There's more I can say, but I'm gonna leave it at that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because fast forward to after I meet my wife we moved to Atlanta. We were there for 2 years, and I was 20, maybe 27. Yeah, I think 27 when we were out there, 27 and 28. And my wife, at one point, she kind of pulled me to the side and was like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? You keep doing that." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Well, she noticed my pattern where in that house, I would go and check all the windows to make sure all the windows were locked and make sure doors were locked. And then I would lay down and then I would get back up 10, 15 minutes later and do it again. We're talking, almost 15 years later, and I'm still running that program, still in fear. There's no reason to be fearful like that. No reason at all.
Wow. Pure paranoia.
Listen, I'm telling you I'm just exhibiting to people how our childhood experiences do have a major impact on our development. And I can say, and I'm not using it as an excuse, but I can look back and see how the childhood experiences, and there's so much more I could say on that, how it put me on a particular path that led me into the conspiracy theory paradigm, that led me into the spirituality metaphysics, and just getting more and more lost in it, just lost. And then I can see how my family has suffered because of that. Again, over the last 4 years, I've really kind of been able to put pieces back together and kind of make things make sense. And I've been doing a whole lot better. It's just that I've been lost so much. There's one other thing I want to say on this, and that is that I don't want to paint a picture of doom and gloom, because though I've had my struggles, and my wife and I, we've had struggles, in our family, we've had struggles, for the most part, it has been overwhelmingly positive. In fact, the way I look at it, I think it's a miracle that we are where we're at today based on what I've experienced and based upon what my wife has experienced in her life. And throughout all of this, whether we go back to when we first met, my wife and I, when we met, I was 25, she was 21, or you bring it today, we're over 20 years together. The one thing that we always had, and we've always given to our children, is plenty of love. And for you men out there, I just want you to be clear about it, that is important too. Okay, being loving, being caring, being affectionate, being present, that's important too. But that there are other things that are also important as men. And there are things that I have not done a good job with for a long time. I've been doing a lot better more recently in my life, but for a long time, just being lost and not handling business, that I have a lot of regrets about. I think that part of the journey into manhood is coming into a place of balance, where we are making sure that all of the needs of our children are being met to the best of our ability, or that all of the needs of a wife, that they are being met to the best of our ability. There are so many lessons that I've learned in my failures, and I've been able to develop wisdom because of it. But the truth of the matter is that these are lessons that could have been taught to me earlier on in life, and should have been taught to me earlier on in life, that would have made my life a little bit easier. But like I always say, no one has a time machine. And as men, we have to deal with what is happening now and rectify whatever problems or challenges, or reach beyond whatever pitfalls or roadblocks that are before us, so that we can be a better service to our families. And I can say that, especially over the last 4 years, I've done a whole lot better. I still have a long way to go, but I'm still committed to doing the best that I can. Yeah, I'm not hearing your audio. You still there?
I'm sorry, I got my audio on. Let me shout out Brother Rob, who's coming to the house. He's a educator in Chicago. Let me say shout out to Brother George Makem. This is the brother that I got to connect you with. He's changed his name to Street Media TV, but George Makem is a brother who has been known in the conscious community, but he is a brother that knows what's going on, has the same type of thinking. He has an organization called Urban Nerds Worldwide in Philadelphia, working with youth in the community. On his YouTube channel, he actually shows you what he's doing. He knows Brother Q Butter, so he runs in those type of circles. He's a brother, unlike other people that we know, who actually is doing something. Yeah. And not saying, hit the cash. And he actually has a real organization where you get a tax write-off when you buy his merch. It goes to the children. You see what he's doing. They got mentoring. They got science happening. This is my man, George Makem, who goes by the name of Street Media TV. Make sure y'all check him out, everybody. Now, let me shout out brother, the real Aaron Collins, who says, God bless you, brother Info. Great content. Thank you. God bless you as well. But let me bring this up. This, once again, that sector weirdo says this. Lastly, Honor, would you like you to do a interview on a interview I had on soft white underbelly involving, oh my goodness.
Yeah, are they saying that they were interviewed on soft white underbelly?
Yeah, I think what the person is saying is, would you like you to do a review? Oh, I guess he would like you to do a review on an interview that he had on soft white underbelly involving I don't want to say that.
No, I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
I'll take a look because I have watched some of those. I mean, man, you know what? I don't even know if I should be saying this. The other day, and I did a video for this for members on my YouTube page. The other day, I was on Yahoo, and there's this article that came up of Paris Hilton. You know who Paris Hilton is?
Yes, I'm familiar with her. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So she was like Kim Kardashian before Kim Kardashian. All right. But she did she's writing a memoirs. I don't know if it's I think it's already completed, but they've been kind of promoting it. And she talked about some of her childhood experience of being raped by an older male who put something inside of her drink. And then she also talked about an experience that she had with Harvey Weinstein. And from that article, because I used to be very judgmental of her, I'm talking like over a decade ago, very judgmental, but you never know what people, have gone through. You don't know what their struggles are. And it just kind of made me take a step back. But what I did was, because I'm kind of like that, I'm like a person that if I see something and it strikes my interest, I'll start doing research on it right away. So then I started to look into other people that she mentioned inside of there. And it kind of triggers me because of the whole pedophilia thing. I just have such an aversion for it. And I started to look into Harvey Weinstein. I was watching these documentaries on him, and then Jeffrey Epstein. That's the guy. I started watching documentaries. Yeah. I remember my wife. She walked in and she was like, "What are you doing? Are you working on another documentary?" Because that's because she remembers. That's how I would do. I would be research. I said, "No, it's just." I told her about Paris Hilton and all this stuff. Then I said, "I'm just because I get into that mode." Okay. And I'm saying all this to say that led me to watching soft. White underbelly, because they have stories of people who have gone through different things. Okay. And as I've been watching that, it just some of that stuff, it just I don't want to say that it's therapeutic, but there's something about hearing other people's stories that were tragic that allows me to process my own childhood experiences in a way that kind of makes it easier, if that makes sense.
I hear you.
So I wrote that down. I'll go and check that out.
Yeah, check that out. And we got Nappy Yankees in the house. He goes by the name Nap TV, and he says that Information Man, that sector weirdo, was on DJ Twitch live with both of us and Sambo Queen on the platform. He told me his story. So Nappy Yankees, familiar with him. I want to also do this. Miss Glow gave me a super chat earlier, so I want to say thank you.
Thank you for the super chat.
Also, we have BB Silk Scratcher, who I've known for a long time on the YouTube streets. She gave me a $20 super chat. I want to thank you.
Thank you for the super chat.
And many folks. We got Smooth B in there. We got Miss M Mills is in the house. Thank you. We got Over 50 and Fabulous coming in the house. Peggy Roster. Hakeem gave me a $5 super chat. Thank you as well.
Thank you for the super chat.
Let me see who else we got here. A lot of great folks are in the house, but let's for the sake of time, because I know you have a program that you have to do tonight, but not to rush anything, but I like where this conversation, it's been organic. It has gone in areas that I wasn't expecting, but it's been organic. And I think a lot of people are learning new things about you, even about me, but primarily this is really good. But let's bring it. So now you went to the period of conspiracy, Black conscious movement type thinking. You said you had some paranoia when you were consuming all these different things that you feel sort of hindered your life in the projection of where you should have been in life. Of course, you didn't grow up on the easy side of the mountain. You were exposed to drugs, people in your family, the streets, all those trappings that all of us, well, some of us like myself, we have all could have fallen victim to. But look, you've made a movement through those ups and downs to sort of shaping and moving and trying to get your family to where you are now. I want to show people something. Do you mind if people see the actual degree that you have? I just want to show them that this is not a plaything, that because you're going to have your critics out there that are going to say it's a lie. He don't have this degree. He's just been trying to manipulate and run a con on everybody. But no, we're going to shut all that up right now and let everybody see this beautiful degree from the University of Arizona Global Campus. There it is, folks. Look at that for the moment because this is the real deal. He sent me. Now, I'm not going to show all the man's business. And I want to say, speaking with your girl, Marcellus, thank you for the $2 super chat. Brenda Johnson, who's over there in the European of Britain, who's a sister, gave me a $10 pound. Thank you. But wait a minute, though. This is important. I got to do this. I got to do this because I want to cut the nonsense out here. This brother sent me this by email. Actually, I've even seen his transcripts. We're not going to show that here, but I've seen the transcripts. They are legitimate. This is the truth.
Tell the truth.
Bachelor's of Science. You see that? Security and technology. Cyber. Let everybody know, what is your degree in? I just want to hear you say that. Is there looking at this degree? Break it down, Honor.
Yeah, so it's a Bachelor of Science in Cyber and Data Security Technology, and I graduated summa cum laude.
Summa cum laude, and some of us say "oh lottie." Some of us graduate and just look, man. Some of us graduate and just say, "Thank God I just, But look. This is a legitimate degree. This is a legitimate degree. And you can look. When you graduate from a legitimate institution, they would have it on record, right, Brother Honor, that you graduated, right? Yeah. So any of you folks out there who are critics of him, because they're going to go out there and they're going to do that. They're going to do some research. They're going to try to cut a video. Well, we're going to find out that it's not a real degree, so we're going to get some good views on this one. Yeah, right. No. It's a legitimate degree. And when I looked at his transcripts, because I went to a university, I could tell that it was legitimate. So those of you out there that are his critics, get off the man's back. He got the degree. He may not have gotten it earlier in life. But like I said before, it's how you end. He's gone through a lot in his life, but look at what he's doing right now. And it's an inspiration to people out there, his family. So it's a legitimate situation. Now, you have gotten the degree. You're moving forward. You're saying you want to get more certificates to improve upon that degree. What are those certificates?
Yeah, so the one that I'm studying for, I don't know when I'm going to take the test. It's going to be a while. Is Network Plus. There's also Security Plus, and then it was also recommended that I do A Plus, but a lot of people said I don't need that. But the main two is Network Plus and Security Plus. It's going to be a while, but that's the plan for now.
Okay.
Yeah, if I don't mind saying one other thing, I've been on the
Yes,
dean's
sir.
list because I remember, and I don't mean to open up this can of worms, but
No, you got to open up the truth, brother.
Tell the truth.
there are so many people who have lied about me and lied about my family, lied about my wife, and lied about my kids. And it's one thing to have legitimate criticism, and I'm well deserving of legitimate criticism, but it's another thing to lie or to spin things or to manipulate things or to make things appear as something that they are not. Because at the end of the day, we got to deal with the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that I didn't handle my business like I should have in the past. And I've done everything that I could do over the last 4 years in order to put myself in a better position to finish this race, this what we call the marathon of life, to finish strong. But I remember when I first decided to pursue a degree, and there were people who were criticizing me and saying that I was too old, that I had too many kids, that I should have done this sooner. Yeah, I should have done it sooner. But the idea that because we have children or because we have a family or because we're too old, it's not a legitimate criticism. At any point in our life, we can make changes. We can make decisions to improve our condition. We can do what we need to do as men so that we can be a better service to my family. The ironic part about it is over the last 2 years, I've done better than I've ever thought while getting the degree. And now I have the degree, and once I enter into the IT field, I'll be able to do even better, far beyond what I've ever thought was possible. I'm saying all that to say is I remember when I first got on this journey to getting this degree, and there were people who they either said that I shouldn't do it or that it was a lie, that I wasn't doing it with no evidence of proof. And I just thought to myself that it's it's so easy to say things about people that are not true. But why is it that we're so easy to say things about people that are not true when all you have to do is go online and get information? And I've given plenty of clues that a person would need in order to find out the truth. I've been giving clues since I started. And one of the things I told people, I said, I'm on the dean's list. I'm on the dean's list. And all a person would have to do is to put my name in Lenon Honor Dean's list, and then the website to the college that I go to will pop up, and you can look for the Dean's list fall of 2022. Go type it in, and then go to my state and click on it, and you'll see my name on there. So, and there's a degree right there. I just want to be clear about this. It's one thing to criticize someone, and I'm so deserving of criticism based upon my affairs in life. But it's another thing to attempt to cause harm to someone else, or to dishonor someone else, or disparage someone else simply because you don't like them, or because you don't like what they're talking about, or you just want to lie. I've never understood that. One of the things, and this will be the last point. One of the things, and I changed the time too for my show, so we're good. One of the things I've always said on for the Cookie Crush channel on my YouTube page is that we celebrate people's success.
Yes.
That there's something about giving encouragement to people who have struggled, and then you follow them as they come up, and you can use that as inspiration, or you can go the opposite. That's the dark side, light side, dark side, Jedi, right? Jedi Sith. You could use it as inspiration and motivation to do something better in your life, or you could recoil and then try to criticize that person or disparage the person for the moves that they're making in order to improve their life, or even lie on the person. And I've gotten so much of that. And I want to just say this, now that I have the degree, that I don't hold any animosity towards anyone who has lied on me. And it's not just with the degree, it's about all kinds of stuff that I've had to deal with, and especially since I started talking about Umar Johnson. I don't have any animosity towards anybody. And I've said it so many times. I just want to see everyone do better, just like I want to see myself do better. And if there's anything that anyone can take from this, is that you have a man who has failed miserably in life, in my opinion, a man who's made a whole bunch of wrong decisions, a man who was not operating like the man that he should have operated for in terms of providing for my family for a long time. I'm doing a lot better now, but over the last 4 years has made every attempt to mitigate that, every attempt to do better. And this degree is part of this process of me becoming a better man so that I can be a better service to my wife and my kids.
Now, Brother Honor, I have to ask you this question, and I want you to be as honest as possible. When most people, and I got to be honest because I've heard people say this, when most people look at the fact that you've been doing quite a bit or a large series of videos on Umar Johnson. Mm-hmm. And you said earlier, which I thought was powerful, about how conspiracy theories and all those things that you were digesting into your mind sort of held you back, and it was kind of cult-like. And we also mentioned about what we're seeing as far as Black conscious community on the internet, how people follow people, and they will follow them to a fault, even when they know what they're doing is not right. Mm-hmm. And people will say, well, why is he making all these videos about Umar Johnson? And I want you to set the record straight on this show. I know you've talked about this on your program, on your channel, but I want you to aesthetically go into it deep here. Why is it that some would say that you making these videos about Umar has been kind of stockish or sort of obsessed with the man, which I don't think you're obsessed with him, because there's a reason and rhyme to this. But tell people the truth as to why you begin to go into it as it relates to what he's been doing that's wrong fundamentally, but what he did personally towards you and your family, to set the record straight once again. Go ahead, brother.
Well, I did not intend on doing videos on Umar, and I most definitely didn't intend on doing videos on Umar for an extended period of time. You know, there's time. I mean, I just came off a 3-month break. You know, there's been times where I've taken 2 months off. There's time to take a month off, whatever. But I didn't intend on consistently doing Umar Johnson videos. I first heard about Umar back in 2014. And this was when he posted on his he posted that video where he's attempting to purchase St. Paul's College. A lot of people don't even remember that. He was talking about how he was going to purchase St. Paul's College, and he just does this video where he's walking on that college campus, and he's talking, and he's telling all these things that he's making promises of all these things that he's going to be doing. It was going to be a boarding school for black boys, and he's going to teach them all these wonderful things, and blah blah blah. And then he starts asking for money, and really what it was a campaign to get money to quote unquote purchase this campus, which he never did. It's a college campus. Well, someone sent me that video, and I don't remember who the person was, but it was on Facebook, and they said, well, what do you think about this? And I watched the video, and I replied back to the person. I said, I think that it's fraud. And they were like, well, why? And I was like, because there's nothing tangible here. He doesn't give a plan. There's no business plan. There's no timeline, a clear timeline of events. He doesn't have anyone else there. It's him walking and someone recording him. Where's his board of directors? So that was a huge red flag for me. Okay. Now, after that, I would hear about Umar every once in a while, here and there. People started talking about him, but this whole thing of dealing with St. Paul's, it just began to spiral out of control. And then at a certain point, all this other stuff started happening. I remember the SETI rant took place. Okay, that was something. If you haven't seen it, I mean, that was something. It was incredible how he was behaving at that time. Now, there were people who were consistently doing Umar Johnson videos, and at a certain point, Umar started to issue physical threats to these people, including women. And I don't listen. When I talk about hypervigilance, it's not just hypervigilance for children. And I'm not even just talking about my children. It's for anybody's children. I don't care if they're white, black, Asian, Mexican. I don't care. I'm just like that. I'm overly protected. I remember one time there was a car, not here, but at the old residence, there was a car that was parked across the street, and there was a guy sitting in there. And he was minding his business. And I remember I walked over there and I said, how's it going, sir? He was like, oh, I'm doing okay. And I said, can I help you with anything? He was like, no, I'm just waiting right here. I said, well, you're not a pedophile, are you? And you should have seen this guy's face. He was like, what, is this guy crazy? I'm like that. And it's not just being protective of children. I'm extremely protective of women. And part of it was because of my upbringing. You know, if you've seen your mama being beat enough and you're too small to protect her, when you become a man, there's a party that's going to be like, you can go the opposite way too. But for me, there's going to be a party that's going to say, I'm going to do whatever I can to protect women, because I couldn't do it then. I can do it now. And that's how I am. I'm like that today. I'm like that with my wife. I'm like that with women in general, almost to the point where there's men that say something wrong with you. That's all right. The point is that when he begins to threaten people with physical violence, that's when I said, wait a minute, I need to go and look into this guy a little bit deeper. And I started to do my research, and I started to do videos on Umar. As the Umar Johnson saga continued, his whole trajectory has spiraled out of control. I remember the so-called conscious stripper gate that took place. I remember the Lord Jamar interview where he was going off. The SETI rant is another example, his beef with Tariq Nasheed. So I've been following this whole progression with Umar for some time. And part of it was that I felt as if, one, what he was doing and what he continues to do, it's fraud and it's wrong. And he's taking advantage of black people who are giving people. This guy's collected so much money, there's still no school. But the other thing is the idea of a man being able to run amok in the so-called black conscious community, online conscious community, wherein he can talk about black women like he does, where he can call for the murder of black boys as he has done, where he can call little girls who've been raped and molested, he calls them thoughts, the holes over there. These are things that Umar Johnson has said. How is it possible that someone can do that without any checks and balances? And so I began to do Umar Johnson videos. And then it came to a point where Umar started issuing physical threats against me. By no means am I a thug. Okay. I grew up around gangbangers and I done seen all kind of crazy, like you were saying earlier. I done seen enough. Okay. A lot of friends, they ain't with us anymore. A lot of them got locked up, still locked up, ain't gonna get out. I done seen enough. I remember one of my friends, he was one of the coolest dudes. There was a drive-by and no one knew who did it, and I don't know if it was one or two people got killed, and it comes out that it was my friend. And he was the coolest dude. His brother was crazy. I thought it was his brother. I said, you guys are mixing it up because they look like each other. I don't know if they were twins or not. Myron and Byron, that was their name. I think they were twins. But the person I would think would not have done that was the one who did that. So I'm not, listen, I've seen enough, but I'm not no thug, and I've never been a gangbanger, nothing like that. Okay. However, if any man steps to me talking about they going to do something and pull up team and we going to do this to you, I'm not going to back down. That's just not in my character. See, when I was a child, I had to because I was too small, but I'm not going to do it these days. So in other words, part of the reason why I kept doing Umar Johnson videos, I know it's ego driven to a degree, but what he's doing is wrong, was because of his physical threat of violence. I'm not the type of person, if he hadn't done that, I would have been done with talking about him a long time ago. And then there's there's two other aspects to this. There's things that he has said about children that are sexualized comments. And like I said before, I have an aversion for that type of thing. It really upsets me. So when I've heard, and I've shown it, I've shown people, I've played the videos where he's talking sexual, explicit talk about children. I have audio of him talking about how he wants to have the boys come up to the school and how he's going to have a fireplace and they're going to sit by the fireplace and he's going to cuddle with the kids.
Right. We've heard that. I've heard that on you played those audios. I've heard that. It's the truth. Whether people see that's just the thing. It's a cultist personality. People believe in the Messiah, in the pathology, in the mythology, should I say, of Umar Johnson to their own fault, that they'll go right down the drain with him and trying to deceive us as a community. Look, I donated money to the cause, and I got disenchanted with what he was doing. People are under this impression. Remember when he was on the Godcast with Lord Jamal, he said, brother, it's been 6 years, when in fact, he's been doing this, as you said, and we've seen the receipts on this since 2009. He keeps moving the bar. Now, I want to say shout out to Make the Change. I think he had a video, Make a Change. His video was brilliant today because once again, he went in details about the woman that was trying to give him advice on that podcast, that radio podcast. He went into her background. She has a legitimate organization and she understands funding. And he totally does not accept advice from people who are learned, who are experienced. And that right there tells me something like, man, if you're not willing to hear and get the assistance of people that can assist you, then it does call into question whether he's serious about opening up this school, or is this just something that he's way over his hands with? And I've said this too, honest. If Umar was to wake up tomorrow and come clean to black people in particular and say, I'm way over my head. I think I've over budget, under budget. I made some mistakes. I want y'all to forgive me. I need help. I've tricked off some of the money. You know how black people are. We'll be mad at you, but we'll forgive you. Look at how many black people go to church who have lived a life of sin and have gone to church and they've been forgiven. And then they say, I'm born again. But I don't know if his narcissistic personality will allow him to do so because he's got such a super ego.
Yeah. That interview was very telling. Both of whether it is the woman that you're speaking about or the Lord Jamar interview, with Umar, it's not just that he doesn't want to take advice. I think part of it is that with advice, and if he had to deal with people, especially people who are professional and know what they're doing, then he's going to have to be held accountable. There's going to be some kind of type of accountability that's going to be associated with that, and he doesn't want that. And that's why I've always told people you've yet to see Umar provide any receipt on anything that he has claimed that he has done or that he is doing. In other words, when he purchased these properties, I had to go and find the receipts in terms of the purchase price because he never told people. And I had to go and find out when it was purchased. So it's why not show the receipt? Why not show the bank ledger that shows that you paid $400,000? There's no accountability. He could have paid less than that. He could have paid more than that. No one knows. Same thing with, all these different things that he has done dealing with this school. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. That's the key word. So the woman, what she was really attempting to do was similar to what Lord Jamar was doing, was to give Umar some advice, but then also to kind of hold him accountable for, the tax situation. He doesn't talk about that. Well, that needs to be talked about too. That should all be disclosed in terms of accountability, him being held accountable, but also the transparency aspect. I don't think that Umar wants to work with people who are in the know, because if they are in the know, they will quickly realize that what he is doing is nothing more than what is called a long con. It's been going on for 13 years. It is fraud and it's wrong. One other thing I got to say, just to be clear, it's not just Umar threatening me with physical violence and doxing my personal information and telling his so-called, he called them Goonie Goons, to come to my house and confront me.
Yes.
All right. Because what that does is that it's intimidation, but it also, you never know who's listening. It puts my family at risk. So now I'm going back down. No, I don't work like that. I don't work like that. But the other thing is that Umar has, for so long now, he has not only financially exploited Black people and Black women in particular, but he's also sexually exploited Black women. And I have a problem with that too. Because if you set Umar as your leader and you're a Black man, and yet he's out here talking about all the cookies that he's crushing and all the cookies he want to crush, and he can't help five thick in the thighs. Who talks like that? If your child's principal talk like that, you're going to take issue. But Umar gets a pass? No. I have an issue with that too. Because if we're going to, quote unquote, rise as a people, well, that also means that we have to raise our standards. And the idea that a man can just be out here sexually exploiting women, getting cookies and getting cash, and doing this for over a decade under the guise of I'm saving Black boys, that's wrong. It's ethically wrong, it's morally wrong, and it sets a very low standard for what we should be as Black men. And I'm like I said before, this is coming from someone who has failed miserably. I'm talking about myself. So the criticism that I receive, legitimate criticism, I accept that. I face that. But that does not mean that somehow we have to accept a standard where we have a male who has collected, in my opinion, at least $2.5 million since 2009, and has been traveling the world. There's still no school, and he manipulates and financially exploits Black people, but then also sexually exploits Black women, and has been doing this now for over 13 years. There's a difference, and there's something that needs to be said about that, and that's another reason why I've consistently done videos about Umar Johnson.
Let me ask you this question. Let me say Identity Withheld gave me a $9 super chat, which I appreciate that, brother.
Thank you for the super chat.
And he had mentioned that he wants you to keep doing what you're doing, and he's cheering everything on here. Thank you, brother. Thank you, everybody that's in that chat room. We got CCNTV in the house, Supreme 22, Empress Goddess, I Am Sunbody in the house, Deborah Guns. Everybody that's come in, I appreciate you. Livingston, Malik Stone, Golden Melon, some of my regular folks that have come in the chat room. Make sure you ladies and gentlemen, make sure you share this video out in all your social media. If you're a content creator, share it in your community tab as well, because I think a lot of people need to see this particular video, this interview. I got to ask you this. This is a very honest question.
Yeah.
This is this is an examination of Black people. I'm generalizing here, of course. Do you think on some level, maybe not in the past, but maybe currently in the times that we're living in, do you think because Black people, for whatever the reason in general, there is some self-hate where we've gone through a period where we were told that we were ugly, our hair is nappy, or this and that. And so we internalize the self-hate and we begin to project self-hate onto each other. It could also flip this way. Do Black people really have legitimate high expectations for one another? Or do we simply just accept whatever slop is thrown our way? And I'll tell you the reason why I say this. There's a 9-year-old black young man who just graduated from high school. He's going to go to an Ivy League college. 9 years old. He was on CNN. And I noticed we don't tend to celebrate young Black people who do things the right way. But we do tend to celebrate the guy that was the gangster who turns conscious now, who turns I'm gonna sell y'all a business. You know the people I'm talking about, who are living a street life. We celebrate them. Now they want to sell us, I know how to buy you homes. I know, real estate. They get in all these things where they want to con us, right? But yet This young man graduates from high school at 9 years old, and we don't tend to celebrate that. Or every time a black man is deleted, that's the new word we're using these days on YouTube because of these algorithms, deleted by police or whoever, we tend to definitely celebrate the deletion of black males or black people in general. But when we're alive and doing the right thing, nobody really seems to care. And I just wonder if black people, due to all the things that's happened to us psychologically, do we have low expectations? Because if we had high expectations, could Umar Johnson do the things that he's been doing, my brother? I need an honest answer on that, brother. An honest
Tell the
answer.
truth.
Well, part of the reason why he's been able to do what he's done is because the bar has been set so low. It's really that simple. And it's not that we all set a low standard. It's just that I think we've been indoctrinated to accept low standards in men, in black men.
Wow.
Someone could argue we've done it for black women too. I'm not here to argue that because I look at it as I'm trying to get my stuff together too. But in Umar Johnson's case, the bar has been set so low to where you have people making excuses for what he has been doing for the last 13 years. There's no excuse. There's no excuse whatsoever. You know, if you don't mind me saying.
No, go ahead.
Tell the truth.
Part of the reason why Umar has been able to do what he has done is because collectively, and I'm just talking about in general, we have been taught to accept such a low standard for black male behavior. Let me
agree with that.
Yeah, let me break this down. And again, you're talking to someone that I've already shared at least part of my, so it's not like I'm coming off some high horse. Let me give an example of what I mean. I grew up in a time period where black men were celebrated based on how many women they had sex with.
That's a fact.
Okay, you from my generation.
That's a fact.
And we had these endearing terms. You know, there's a picture of me right there looking with the flat top right there. That's around that time period.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Honors. You kind of got a little bit of a thug look there, brother.
Well, part of it was my daddy took that picture. You see, my dad took that picture, and I don't even know how he got over to the house, but he pulled up in a brown caddy. had his hat on from the shorts to the top, his socks going up his leg. It reminded me of that character from Martin. You remember that one guy, the older guy from Martin?
Yeah.
Remind me of. But anyway, that's 1992. That was probably my senior year, maybe my 11th grade year. And my dad, he pulled up in a Cadillac, and I hadn't seen him in I don't know how long. And he took that picture. It was a Polaroid. I still got the Polaroid to this day. Man, you know, I know we're talking about standards, but we used to have these terms of endearment for black males who were living a sexually promiscuous lifestyle. And we would say things like, he's a pimp, he's a player, he's a Mac. Okay, that's all right. Pimp terminology from the 70s, the black exploitations. In fact, our fathers, that's what they got. They got that whole pimp programming.
Wow.
Pimp programming set a very low standard for black male behavior. And in particular, it promoted gangsterism, the gangster archetype, but also hypersexuality too. Amongst
right, Superfly movies and all that sort of stuff.
Yep, all of that. But if I could, because again, I'm not here to try to act like I'm on some high horse. Can you go back to that picture? Because I want to share something with y'all.
Yes, sir. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to pop it on here for you.
So that picture, just to give context, that was what, 30 years ago?
Here we go, brother. Take a look at yourself 30 years ago, 1992. I think in 92, I was about, how old was I in 92? I think I was about 22 years old then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was probably 16 or 17 because I graduated a year early. So I was probably 16, 17. But I just want people to understand that if you look at me at that point, it doesn't look like someone who's happy, nor does it
No,
look like, just it's very clear to me. And I'm a father now, so I can look back and see myself, and I can tell where I was at right now. Very angry, frustrated with the world. Lost a lot of friends due to gang violence and all that type of foolishness. Father wasn't around, show up, here and there and unannounced, and just so he's taking the picture. Just the irony of it all. But I want to share something else with you all, because we were talking about how the standard has been set so low for Black men. And a lot of people don't want to deal with that fact, but it's true. And I'm talking about in general. It doesn't mean everybody, but we really do. And it's not just Black men setting a low standard, it's Black women too, catering to this type of foolishness and supporting this type of foolishness and, making excuses for men who are out here doing all kind of crazy. That has to stop. It really does. And I'm not the one to stop it. All I can do is try to get my life on track and provide an example for my kids so that maybe they do better, and they will. They'll do better than I did. But if you look at that picture right there, I was 16, maybe 17. And during that time period, I had a girlfriend, and I was basically living at her house, at her apartment. She lived in the hood. And her and her mama, and I was living at her house. I would come home to get clothes. Man. And I was out there. We were having sex, unprotected sex, and just too much, way too much.
That's way too much, sex, brother.
Just way too much. I remember she used to bake cookies, and I would watch ESPN, and then we would have sex, and then it was just. And I think about it now, just to say that what I was missing was fatherly guidance. And in the absence of that fatherly guidance, we get lost.
Yes.
And part of the being lost is the standards that we set. We set such low standards. There's no excuse. If I was my son's father, and back then, I would have been like, listen, let me come talk to you. You're not going to. And again, I was in a committed relationship. Okay, I was in a committed, but that's not the point. The point is, if you're 16, 17 and you living like that, there's something that's missing in your life. And part of what was missing is not, my mom did the best she could. She really did. Part of what was missing was I didn't have that father figure in my life to guide me. But the other thing was that the standard for my generation during that time was set so low. So how I was living was actually praised. You see? So this all to say, to
and that's the whole point.
Yep.
Go ahead. I just think that you said it. Go right ahead, brother.
Yeah, that's just to answer your question. Yeah, the standard has been set so low, but it's not like it's this generation. It's not like it's just in 2020. This has been going on for a very long time. And at some point, we have to raise the standard. And that standard should apply to me. That standard should apply to you. That raised standard, that standard should be applied to Umar. Let me say something else. I don't have any ill will towards Umar. In fact, I wish this brother would get his life together. I wish that he would turn things around. I wish he would stop living the life that he's living. I mean, it's a sexy, promiscuous lifestyle. He's preying on these Black women, talking about he's going to save their boys. He's collected all this money for a school that does not exist. He's called for the murder of Black boys. He's there's so much that I can say. But even still, I wish that he would raise his own standard and strive to achieve something greater. Because no one on this planet, I really believe this, no one is at a point in their life, if you're still breathing, where you can't make positive changes in your life. And that's something that I've done. That's something you have done. That's something that any of us can do. And you Black men have to understand it too. But in the first place, the standard has to be raised to where you say, listen, I have to become something greater than what I am. And I have to stop doing those things that have led me down this path. I listen, conspiracy theory paradigm, spirituality, metaphysics. I've been there. Led me down this path, totally astray. Not focusing on taking care of my family, in particular materially, getting lost, but that too can be turned around. If I can do it with 5 kids and a wife, Umar can do it with him not handling business. He can make these changes too, and I want that for him.
I want to kudo what you're saying, because I would rather see Umar just come clean and say he needs help and actually utilize the help that people could give him, because I think the school is a good idea. It could come to reality, but he needs a combination of people helping him. He's not going to be able to do it on just the donations that he's currently getting alone. He's not going to be able to do it as a person isolating himself. And then, this already, when you look at the breakdown of what he's trying to do, a bus picking up kids in different states. First of all, the bus costs money. Where you going to buy the bus? That's going to cost gas, maintenance. You got to pay teachers. You got to pay someone on staff like a nurse, security. There's so many aspects of this. And you have to have, as you know this already, and you've talked about this on your channel, you have to have some type of business plan, some type of tangible plan. And, you know, maybe Umar got himself caught up, you know, maybe the steamboat just kept rowing too fast for him. He got caught up in this whole idea of, I'm going to build a school, because he was at the height of his popularity. And then he realized, oh, I can't really do this, but I'm getting this money, which is allowing me certain access. And one of the things that you always say that I think is very important is that you've never seen him in a desk, in a room, a building, behind a desk in an office, conducting business in a professional manner.
No.
You either see him in a hotel, a car, and now those buildings, whatever you want to call them. But you never seen him say, hey, everybody, I'm in my office with a real desk, a computer, everything the way it's supposed to look professionally. And that is a telling sign. And I'm going to be honest with you. I got to say this to you, brother. I think one of the reasons why you get a lot of people that have hated on you, not only because they are lovers of Umar, but I think some of these people are jealous of the fact that you're actually exposing stuff that they wish they could do better than you. So there's people who are talking about Umar who are jealous of the fact that you always have the receipts and that you're able to do something better than they can do it. And that you're exposing him in a way that they are in denial of, because they get some kind of benefit from believing in him. It's just like when you have a cult leader, there's something about that person's personality that just, you can't take yourself away from them. You have to believe, even if you know that it's just it's an illusion. It's a delusion in your mind, and an illusion.
Yeah.
And I want to say, Lady 747 is just super chat. Let me read what she's written here before we get to conclusion here. And I want to make sure that you make some other important points. She says, I think he wants buses to pick up kids up so that parents aren't coming up to the school daily. More isolation. Interesting. And another thing I've always wanted to say to you, Honor, when Umar does these things where he puts on these fake weddings where he has two women, and you notice he's caught up in this rainbow stuff of vanilla this and chocolate this and fudge and all of that, hot fudge candy or whatever. But you notice the thing that's very destructive here. He had he had a girl and a boy that were involved in this fiasco wedding. And what that does is it sends a wrong message, because it's saying to them, oh, I'm supposed to marry a man with another woman, or to a young boy, I'm supposed to marry two women. Now, maybe in other countries, men can get away with having more than one wife. That comes with responsibility. But I think when Umar does that, he is setting a bad example. And then he's never dressed in a proper way. And I say to myself, would I send my child to a school with a man who behaves in this manner and claims to be a school psychologist?
Yeah, no one would in their right mind. See, if Umar was a white male and talks how he talks, he would be called a white supremacist. If Umar was a white male and he's supposed to be a principal, you know doggone well we would not tolerate someone talking like the way Umar talks, or even him doing fake weddings and all of this stuff. Let me break something down for everybody. Yes. And I've talked about this, but I don't think I've talked about this enough. That Umar's idea of polygamy has nothing to do with a cultural backdrop that supports polygamy. In other words, polygamy as it stands around the world, and historically speaking, there's always a cultural context for it that supports it so that it becomes functional. That cultural context does not exist in the Black community or in the African American community. What exists in the Black or African American community is what I call conscious pimpism. It's pimp culture. So For Umar, the idea of having two wives has little to do with a cultural context of building healthy family institutions. The context is really sexual exploitation. It's really him fulfilling his sexual desires as is expressed by having multiple wives and multiple sex partners. But if you take the wife part out, because he's still not married, he's already living that way.
Right.
But to
Right.
give the illusion under the idea of Black consciousness or the idea of Pan-Africanism that I'm polygamous, no, it's really just another way to sexually exploit the Black women that he's already sexually exploiting. See, there's no cultural context that supports polygamy in the African-American community. Here we have, let's go to my father's generation. They received pimp programming.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
My father too.
Yeah, that's right. That's about the financial exploitation and the sexual exploitation of Black women. Sounds familiar? I already talked about it. That's what Umar's doing with this whole school scam.
Exactly.
So our fathers, they get that programming, and it does impact how they think. Everybody wants to drive a Cadillac. Sound familiar? Superfly.
Right. Superfly.
They want to dress in them fits, and I'm a pimp and I'm a player and all this talk. But then that translates into early hip hop. If people go to listen to early hip hop, they give these references to Blaxploitation films consistently.
That's right.
Well, that's the programming that your generation, our generation received. You
That's
see,
true.
so it's just juxtaposed into our generation. Now we're getting more into the gangster archetypes, but still the pimp culture. I'm a pimp, I'm a player, blah, 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 this type of talk. Well, that speaks to dysfunction in the African-American community. It speaks to the continued sexual exploitation of Black women, not caring. I don't want to be using them terms, but not caring about who you're dealing with. I just want to exploit you, whether that is financially or whether that's sexually. Now we get into a generation now of people, and really it's people like Umar, where they're talking about polygamy as if there's a social construct that is in place that supports it. No, what we have is a social construct here that supports pimp culture. It supports gangsterism. It supports the sexual exploitation of Black women. It supports the financial exploitation of Black. It supports porn. We have 3 generations now of Black men been raised on porn. So somehow we're going to adopt this idea of polygamy that is so foreign to us, and we're going to put it into the cultural context of our experience here in the United States of America after we've had the Blaxploitation, we've had the hip hop and all the bitches and hoes, and excuse my language, we have the porn, the exposure to porn, we have all these different things, even the access to the internet, and somehow it's going to be functional for Black men? No. What it is Black men seeking to continue to play out the same types of sexual desires and sexual fantasies and sexual programming that they received, that our fathers received in Blaxploitation films, that we received in early hip hop and next generation, and so forth and so on. And Umar calls it conscious. There's nothing conscious. Listen, Umar lives inside, I'm saying it, Umar lives inside his mama's closet, and yet he wants 2 wives. Come on, it's thoroughly ridiculous. It's so
Which
ridiculous.
he would not be able to take care of.
No, he would not be able to. So why then does he put that forth? Well, I think part of it is because it gives this illusion that he is so-called conscious and that he is a Pan-Africanist and blah, blah, blah. But the other thing is it has to do with his own continued exploitation of Black women. And so instead of doing it without marriage, well, let's go ahead and do it with marriage. I need me too, and they got to be 5'5", thick in the thighs, pina colada, and hot fudge.
Okay. This is what I want to do because I know you've got a show tonight. We don't want to burn you out on, but
if you want to, I can schedule it for tomorrow. I mean, it's
no, I want you to do your show because I'm looking forward to watching your show too.
all right.
No, but look. No, but it's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want you to let the people know anything else. Doesn't have to be about Umar, but anything else that you want people to know about your journey. For example, do you mind? Let me play something, and I want to get your thoughts on this when I play this for you. Let me do this right here. And when I play, you already are familiar with it, but I want you to speak to this a little bit before, as a way to close out the show.
But it just didn't happen. Since graduating, it's been different for me. I think graduating really caused me to just stop and just reflect on where I'm at in life. Really, it should be a celebratory time, but I haven't had that experience. And I've talked about this a little bit. I plan on doing a series of videos to talk about this because I'm sure there's other people who have had this experience too. You know, maybe people who are older more so than people who are younger. Because if you have these types of achievements earlier on, I think you probably feel a lot better about them. Whereas for me, this later on in life, I feel it's an accomplishment, but it's also it's been very humbling too, because I've had to look at failures and different hangups that I've had and all this type of thing. So I think it's good in that sense because I've had to think about things in retrospectively, but the vacation has been good because it's given me some time to kind of reflect, and I've been able to spend time with my children. Had some birthdays over the last week, and cleaning up the house. Just stuff that I.
Brother, what I want to say to you is that you really broke it down about the idea of reflecting. And then I also found out that you are definitely a Star Trek, a Trekkie fan like I am, and that you're working on, like, now, for example, a lot of people know you for the shockumentary about Umar Johnson, which I thought was brilliant. I thought you knocked it out of the box with that one. But then to find out that you're working on a sci-fi critique of Star Trek, I'm looking forward to that. That's another aspect of you. Tell people a little bit about that as we get to conclusion here, because there's more to you than just the Umar Johnson videos that you've been doing.
Yeah, and this is such an important point. I just want people to understand that while I was in college, I didn't have much time to do much of anything else. It's college, go to work, come home, deal with kids, deal with the wife, and I was studying. And really, it got to the point where I really only had time to get together with the Cookie Crush chat, which was actually it helped me. It helped me get through college. I only had time to do that, but there's so much more that I do have to offer. And since I've been on vacation, I've been working on a documentary. It's not specifically about Star Trek, but Star Trek is an aspect of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The main focus is Star Wars, but I do reference, because it's sci-fi. There's so many.
Sci-fi in general.
I'll reference Twilight Zone, $6 million Man.
Oh, I grew up on that. I grew up on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm working on that. I'm a ways away. I think I'm about 20 minutes into the editing. I figure it's probably going to be closer to an hour and a half once it's done, maybe 2 hours. But I'm working on that. I had some time during this break, but I've also been working on music. A lot of people don't know this about me, that when I went to college the first time, I went to college as a musician. I never finished, but I do have musical talents. And I would have liked to have been able to share more of that, but because of the last 3 years, I've 3 years and 3 months being in school, I've not had much time to do anything outside of what I've been doing here on YouTube dealing with Umar. It's been easier to do that than to do full production work like I'm doing with the documentary I'm working on, or dealing with music. I've been close to finishing one of the songs that I've been working on over the last week. But I just want people to understand that there will be a time, and it'll be a lot sooner than later, well, this whole Umar Johnson saga, it will end, and I won't be doing Umar Johnson videos consistent. I know I haven't been all that consistent anyway, more recently, but that's because I needed to focus on graduating. But that later on, and not too far into the future, I will be transitioning to doing more, because I have more time now that I'm not in school.
Yes.
And if I know that there are a lot of people, because you brought this up, who have criticized me for doing videos consistently about Umar. I think that someone needs to do it. I think someone needs to do it. And I've also expressed the need for someone else to do it, who can pick up the mantle, and preferably someone who's younger, but who also has ethics, and it's not going to get up here and lie on Umar. Because I've seen people do that. I have an aversion to that. I've seen people lie on Umar. I've seen people lie on other people. People lie on me, my wife, and my kids.
Right.
It has to be done by someone who has a moral compass and is ethical about what they're doing, and not misrepresenting the facts or twisting things in a way that spins a narrative that's untrue. And I hope that will happen too, because the thing with Umar is that there's been no real accountability. And because he's largely internet based, it's not as if he's grassroots where you have elders who can put him in a position to correct certain things that he's doing. And it's definitely needed with him. One other thing I want to say, Umar, he's inspired me to do better. He really has. He's inspired me to do better. And one of the things that is tragic about all of this is when you see people who have certain gifts, and you see people who have certain talents, and you see people who could have really made a difference for Black people, and you see them doing what Umar is doing, it's a tragedy. In Umar's heyday, a lot of people don't know this about Umar, but in his heyday, he didn't look like he looks now, and he didn't conduct himself like he conducts himself now. He was suited and booted. He was dressed to the T, suit and tie, and professionals would come out to see. He would be at colleges. Professionals would come out to listen to this guy. And I'm talking about people who had master's degrees and PhDs. Well, those days are long over, and it's tragic. You know, it's I don't want to say that it's a waste, because I firmly believe that Umar can turn things around. I've been turning things around. And as Black men, that's the thing. We have to be committed to that, no matter how hard it gets or how down we've get. I've gotten so down. I've been so down and out. And Umar can do it too. And I think that with Umar, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, that if Umar made the decision to change his life,
Yes.
it would be, and I'm talking about in a positive way, and let that be the example and the shining light for other Black men to see, that would be one of the most powerful stories that could ever be told. And though I've criticized Umar, and I have been critical of Umar, I can honestly say that that is something that I want for the brother.
Right on. That is I would say, brother, that officially is a great way for us to conclude this interview at the end of the day, we want success for all brothers and sisters, all people. But if they're not doing something right, we have to critique it, call it out, because we would be called out by people if I was doing something wrong. People have the right to call me out and critique it as well.
Yeah.
I want to end like that because I agree with you. But let me ask this question real quick. Do you see a day coming that something could happen that could make Umar potentially come clean? To the point where he's able to humble himself before the people he call his supporters and maybe turn this and steer this thing around. I mean, like you said, anybody can change.
Yeah, well, the thing is that if he did decide to do that and he did it, the support would still be there. I would be one of his main supporters. I mean, if he got on track and got his life turned around, I would support that. You know, I would stop doing videos dealing with this school scam, and I would support him really taking the steps needed to get his life on track. But to answer your question, if there's anything that would need to take place, I think that it's not anything external of Umar. I think if you take the school idea away, that he still would be doing what he's doing, just to a different capacity. If you took away, people, let's say people interviewing him, he would still find a way to do what he's doing. It's something that is internal that needs to take place. And one of the things that my life has taught me is that the most difficult thing to change in life is you. But that in order to change you, you have to go deep into yourself and deal with you. That means dealing with your psychology. That means dealing with your mentality. That means dealing with your physical existence. Look at me for an example. There was a time where I was so caught up in the conspiracy theory paradigm that I'm paranoid and I'm scared of everything, and I'm not focusing on things that matter. I'm not focusing on taking care of my family like I should. But it took me many years to get to the point where I recognized that I had to look at my own mentality about life. I had to look at my actions. I had to look at what I was focusing on, and then start the process of putting the pieces back together. what I'm getting at here is I don't think that it's ever anything external that needs to happen for any of us, in particular as Black men, for us to turn things around, or at least get back on the path of doing the right things in life, focusing on the right things. I have a sense, and this is what my life has taught me, that there's always something internal that we have to do within ourselves. And with Umar, there is a lot, whether we're talking about psychologically, whether we're talking about emotionally, whether we're talking about sexually, that he would have to really buckle down and address and I used to use the term purify himself to such a degree to where he can come out of how he has been living and turn his life around to live a better life. It's internal in the first place. And if that could happen, then yes, most definitely Umar can get on the right track.
Well, brother, I want to thank you for being here. Lenon, honor. I want to thank you. I've been waiting to do this interview with you for quite some time, but I think this was the right time. Sometimes things happen when they're supposed to happen. I'm glad that it's now because of the achievement that you've made with the degree. I wish nothing but success for you going forward, your family, all endeavors. May God bless you and everything that you do, your wife, everyone. And keep doing what you're doing, brother. And I'm actually looking forward to you transitioning into the other videos and the other aspects of what you want to do with your channel and just in life. And keep this in mind again. What you're doing is probably inspiring someone out there who's in the same situation that's saying, damn it, if he can do it, I can do it. So what you're doing, your story is a testament. And I think keep bringing it up, keep talking about it, because it's going to help people that are out there. So I want to thank you for being a guest today, brother. All due respect to you. It was very humbling to talk to you. We got into a lot of issues, a lot of areas I didn't think we were going to go. But I think for the most part, people really enjoyed the program today. And this is definitely one for the ages. So thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much, brother, for having me. I appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for being a source of inspiration as I continue to get my life turned around. And I want to tell you that I love you. I appreciate you.
Love you too.
I want you to keep doing what you're doing. And if there's anything that I can ever do to assist you or help, you let me know. And brother to brother, I will be there. Thank you so much.
Well, what I might need to pick your brains about, and would probably be a great show, is about that cybersecurity, because that's the big thing now. No, I'm serious. I think I want to pick your brains about that, because you see what's happening in our world today. That's where everything is at. So definitely keep doing your thing. I'll be in contact with you. Everybody, make sure. I hope he's still doing the show tonight. Our brother Honor's got a big show for y'all tonight. So call it an after party. Hopefully he'll be going live on his platform in not too long, and y'all can really get it in good over there about this issue that we were talking about related to Umar and what have you. So, brother, with that said, I'm going to give you a due, a respect, and I'll see you over on your channel very soon. And everybody in the chat room, thank you for being here. Make sure you share this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and make sure you go over and subscribe to Brother Honor's channel and give him some support. Well, of course, they've been giving you a lot of support, but continue giving him support. Look, this is the truth right now, brother. All the haters out there can't say anything, because you've been very transparent on this program. You're transparent on your program. Yeah. They can't do anything but hate, because you are winning in the end, and you're doing what necessary needs to be done right now. And see, this is the thing. Instead of worrying about and trying to downtrodden someone, lift them up. Now, you have said, to your credit, that even though you've had a critical analysis, a critical examination of what Umar Johnson has been doing, you've been very fair on your channel, because you often still say you want him to win. Yeah. If he's doing well, I'm going to give him the kudos. When he had his block party, we all gave him kudos. It was successful. It was successful. It doesn't make a school, but it was successful. So to the critics out there, Honors has always said that he wants him to win. I think we all want him to win in the end, but if he's doing something that isn't kosher, we have to call it out. We have to call it out. Because you know how this works, Honors. When you don't call these things out, there'll be people out there when the crap hits the fan, somebody's going to be out there saying, why didn't nobody say anything? Mm-hmm. Why did y'all all sit back and watch this like a train wreck and said nothing? You know how this works. When you don't say anything, everybody calls you out and say, you didn't say nothing. And you knew that he was doing A, B, and C.
Yeah, but the other thing though too with the whole Umar situation is if people listen very carefully, I criticize him, but I also have a sense that my criticisms has helped him to at least try to do certain things.
Yes.
Getting the HVAC, at least try to get certain things done, getting electricity turned on. And I would propose that if people like me, people like you, and Make a Change, other people, if we didn't speak out for what Umar has been doing in terms of this going on for 13 years, that he would have been much more complacent than he already is. So this is to say that I want Umar to win. I just think that I know that this school scam is just fraud. And in order for him to win, he would have to let the fraud go and then internally focus on what he needs to focus on in his life. And see, just as my criticism of Umar, I do know that it has caused him to at least take certain steps, okay, even if it's make-believe, to give the illusion of progress, as I call it. Well, the same thing applies to people who have criticized me. See, I've forgiven so many people, and it's one thing, criticism is nothing that people just lie, but even the people who have criticized me with legitimate criticisms, that allowed me to get into the mode of thinking, of personal reflection, to figure out what it is that I needed to do in order to get my life turned around.
Right.
Okay. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. No.
Right. But let me just say this to you before we end. I think, now look, one of the conspiracy theories that I always got a chuckle out of is that there were people that were out there saying that maybe Honor is in cahoots with Umar Johnson by making the videos to keep him relevant. Okay, conspiracy theory. But it's obvious to us that Umar is watching these videos. And you know why I know he's watching you and many others? Because every time people critique him, he comes back the week after and says, ha ha, I did that like the window. I made mention about windows. I know he must have been watching my video because I made that statement about windows. And then he did that video where he said, see, the haters say we ain't got no windows. It's like, oh, why did he say that? Because he's watching the videos. So the videos are keeping him accountable, folks. Yeah. The videos are actually motivating him in a sort of strange way. What do you think?
You're right. No, you're absolutely right about that. And I've known that for a long time. I've seen so many examples of him pivoting all of a sudden, because right after you do or Make a Change, do a video, I do a video, other people too. I've seen it over and over and over again. That's why I'm saying I think in the bigger scheme of things that this Umar Johnson saga, it also exhibits the need for black men to hold other black men accountable. And there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with critiquing as long as it's not lying on people or twisting things up. I've always been fair with Umar. And if that's what it takes for Umar to take the appropriate steps to at least try, then so be it. Just like if people criticizing me put me in a position where I couldn't be complacent anymore, and then over the last 4 years, I've really been putting forth effort to get my life on. There's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Right. All right, Brother Honor. Enjoyed the interview with you. This is great. And I'll be over at your channel to watch the saga, another great saga tonight on your program. So thank you again, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure. Again, love you, bro. Thanks for having me, and I'll talk with you soon.
All right, brother, you take care. Everybody, there it is. It's an interview that I've been waiting to do for quite some time. And hey, there's never a better time like now to have done this interview. I want to thank all of you in the chat room. I want to thank Brother Honor again. This was incredible today. I want to say this is very important as I take things off the board. Glow gave me a super chat today. Dealing with Hell. We got Dominique Jones in there. We got Healthy Conscious in the house. If you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. Wayne Gathered Right Gatherings Right. If I'm saying that correct, we got Brandon, Recovery TV. Thank you. MK Kim, Bling Bar, and more. Make sure y'all check out her channel. She sells beautiful merchandise for ladies, jewelry, all the good stuff that you like over there. So check out her channel. We got the Vegan Athlete in here. I think that's a wonderful name, the Vegan Athlete. Hey, what's going on? I know who you are. Yalfi, make sure you get in contact with me, sister. I still want to promote your products. We got the beautiful Bernice in the house. And I'm going to get ready to end this because I know that people are going to be going over there to his channel. Identity with Hell gave me a super chat, which I really appreciate that today. This whole thing was a great interview. We went deep. That's why I said on the thumbnail, on the title of the thumbnail, a interview with honors like you've never seen. Folks, we talked about things. He probably said things that you hadn't heard him say before. Some things he did, but I think he opened up a whole extra can of worms and gave you all some insight into his journey. It's been an up and down journey, but the man has a degree. He's doing what he is doing and what is good for his family. We all have a path that we follow. Some paths are not as glorious as others in the beginning. And then some paths eventually lead to where we really need to be. So I really want to thank you all for being here today. We're going to get ready to get out of here. This is the Information Man Show. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell and notification.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
And I thank you all again. You gave me great support tonight. Share this video on your social media. Share. And we're going to do it again, everybody. I will hopefully be back this week or during the week. Some people like those videos that I go when I go live during the week for a short period of time. I do plan to do a video, at least 1 or 2 videos, or maybe 1 video during this week on this channel. There's also the podcast channel. I will be posting or going live over there as well on the Information Man Speaks podcast channel, as well as Info Media Live content coming over there on Info Media Live soon about how to build a YouTube channel for those of you who want to build a YouTube channel. So it's all coming together day by day, trying to, come up with new content, new issues. There's an issue that I need to talk about that Jason Black talked about yesterday about the black farmer out there in Colorado. I think I got to do a deep dive into that because I was listening to his channel, his show just earlier today on the replay. And I didn't realize how deep the problem was in Colorado with the black farmer, with that brother and his wife, and the fact that they're sitting on very huge land and those people want to remove them off that land. It's horrible what's happening with black farmers in this country. And so there's a lot of issues that I want to cover that will be covered on this channel. The Information Man Show, we get into political, cultural issues. I do interviews with people. I critique situations just like you see right here today. And we're going to keep doing what we got to do. So everybody out there, peace to you and much love. Great support today, everybody. Great support. I loved it. You guys, everybody's the best. Ladies and gentlemen, great support today.
Tell the truth.
Y'all take care. Tell somebody that you love them. And don't be a stranger to this channel. Share the video, everybody. Peace.
Tell the truth.
Information
I really appreciate everybody
is
out
power.
there. It's power, everybody. I appreciate you all. It's a great show today. Yeah.
Tell
It
the
was a
truth.
great show, everybody. Peace to you. Everybody in that chat room. Much blessings to you all. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell the truth.
power.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Thank you, everybody, again.
Information is power. Information man. Please
I'll
make
see
sure
you
to
all on the
subscribe.
YouTube streets.
Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Tell the truth.
Information is power.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel. is power. Information
Tell the truth.
is power.
Tell the truth.